can't just, tee off on it.
It's a fun game, man. I enjoy playing this morning.
Hey guys, we are live. Just so you know, we are live.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate you telling us.
Yeah, it's good exercise too, man, which at this point in my life, I need to make sure I stay on top of. It's real easy to sit around a lot.
I play with I don't know if I told y'all before, I play with a group of older women and men. I'm the youngest person, and everybody else is like 70. All of them retired, all of them. And I played with them for a while, but I went back and played with them, and they're so good. They're so good, man. They're just so good. I mean, I haven't been sore either. Sore from playing against them is crazy.
I don't care what age you are, what gender you are. If you can get cooked by anybody out there, if they got game, it don't matter. There was a cat that he was saying the other day, yesterday when we went out there, he usually comes and plays in Birkenstocks, which he's that good. It's like when you see a cat rolling out like that, you like, oh, what is he doing? But it's kind of the psychological gamesmanship.
When I played in the Bahamas, we played barefoot. Like we were on a beach at the resort, and they had a beautiful pickleball court in that. So we didn't play with our shoes on. We just played barefoot because. I mean, I'll play in the rain. I'll play in the snow. We are idiots sometimes. We play like anytime it's above 31 degrees, we played, and we haven't stopped playing. TNT.
Hey, TNT.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
How y'all been?
We are live. We are live in the pre-show. We're live, just so you know. We're live.
All right. How everybody been?
Good. How the business going?
No complaints. Booked and busy, babe.
I see those food plates. I see those food plates all the time. I'm like, I want to eat some of that.
Hey, and you should. It's been such a blessing. I don't even know if I should say it, but I mean, they've already secured me, but I'm doing the Black Family Reunion. Again, this will be my 3rd year in a row, and they're going to be honoring our boy, Fanon Rucker. So I'm going to be doing the meal
nice.
at
the breakfast. So you're doing the breakfast
lounge, or the all day BFR lounge.
Okay.
13th. So in the evening, like around 5, it's a special dinner for Fanon Rucker and his friends and family. So I'm sure y'all going to be there, right?
I've seen that on there. I'm going to try to be there on that one.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Just did a wedding renewal vows for a good friend of mine over this weekend, and just a few days before that, Iris recommitment to the collaborative agreement meeting, served for that. So yeah, it's been a long week for me.
What's up?
I was gonna put on my chef hat and start cooking.
It's good to see you. It's good
I'm
to see
ready
you.
to have fun today. Let's have some fun, please.
We have been laughing a lot. We've been cutting up on this show.
Yeah.
Hey,
Who's that? Pat. It's my girl, Pat Rogers. Yes, Miss Pat. Love you. And let me go. So Nathan, he pulls up additional topics and stuff. I haven't even got a chance to look at it. Let's see what's going on. We may or may not hit it, so see how we can read up on it real quick.
Now that I know that you're cooking at the Fanon's event, I had it on my radar, but now it's even more on the radar. So I booked bullseye out there now because I do need to come. I see your food, and I'm like, man,
that's my Libra twin, so that's a solid brother right there. It's more deserving.
Hey, Kristen, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, great.
How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
smooth.
It's better. It's better this way than in the car, huh?
It is a lot better. Yeah, I was actually moving out of our space that day, so I had a U-Haul. I've just been trying to do it whenever I have time, but yeah, not really conducive for a podcast.
Yeah, looks good, sound good, great. So we're in technically the pre-show. It's like the show before the show.
Yeah.
So here in the sometime in the next minute, we'll start the real show, so to speak, just so you know. So we're currently live, so people can hear you. So, and we'll just start the show and start with your story, Kristen, if that's good for you.
Sure.
All
Which story do you want?
I want the story. I want all the story that's relevant in context that leads up to your experience with the store in Avondale.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to hear what you think needs to be heard about that, in as much as you can talk about it.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Because there's been big conversation about Avondale and businesses leaving. You're in Avondale, so I want to get your perspective.
Okay.
Hey, Damien, good to see you, man. Hey, Ross. Hey, Andrea. Good to see everybody. Regina, I saw you. Pat, thank you. Fam, good to see you. Lemmy, good to see you. Appreciate everybody. Hey, Steban is with us. So we'll get started. I'll put everybody backstage and we'll start the pre-show, or we'll start the real show. Yeah, and Phyllis is going to join us probably around 2:30. So there it is. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Hot Mic Cincy. Hold on, let me switch. There it is. There is everybody. Nathan Ivey with you. We got Kristen Bailey with us. We're going to hear her story. But we got TNT is back. How you doing, TNT?
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everybody. I miss y'all.
Absolutely. I'm glad you made time for us today. And I appreciate you. Sure. Looking forward to it. Yeah, Kevin Aldrich, the voice of reason. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good to see everybody. Happy to have our guests with us, as well as TNT back in the fold.
And the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. How you doing, Terrace?
Doing well. It's always good to see female opinions and perspectives on this show, and especially to have our family member TNT back. It made me smile to see her pop on there. So it's going to be a fun show. More laughter, more love spread all the way around.
All right, but let's get straight into it. We got Kristen with us, and it was it Sweets and Meats Barbecue?
Yeah, Sweets and Meats Barbecue.
I got it right. And you know, you guys not currently, but recently shut down. You had a spot over in Avondale, and I saw that you had posted some stuff on Facebook, and I thought, you know what, there's a story here. I want to hear your story, and then what led up to the experiences. Like anything you want to share with us about your experiences and add to the conversation, I'd like to hear it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for the forum to share. Our journey was an important one to us. And I didn't really speak on it much because the media has a way of twisting words. I know one of the things you may have seen, like back in December, we did kind of make a cry for help, if you will, to the community, letting them know that things weren't going as expected. We had made a tremendous investment in our space in Avondale, and we were met with so much backlash. The media really spun the call for help as a cry for DEI shutting down and Trump tariffs, and how it was a Black-owned business that was actually owned by a white person, and it just became this huge divide, and it actually didn't help us. It hurt us quite a bit. And Fox 19 was the interview. Like I met with the reporter for an hour, and they only take like 60 to 90 seconds. They take little bites of that interview, and they focused on the things that I really felt caused division. And we didn't need that. Avondale didn't need that. And if you look at the interview that I gave with Deja on WCPO, it was an entirely different interview, but it was the same discussion. And so the thing that I want to shed light on is, like, for me, it was really difficult to shut down the way that we did. We were in business for 12 years. I don't think people realize that. Like Sweets and Meats, we literally started, Anton and myself. Anton is my co-founder and my significant other. Been together for 17 years, started the business together in 2014 in our backyard. We had a lot that we risked on this opportunity, and we closed down without a word, and we did it silently because of the media and because we didn't want to drive more negative attention to Avondale, because I kind of saw what was happening. And I shared that with our leaders in the city to say, hey, we need more support. And I was met with a lot of resistance of, well, we've put money into Avondale. It's the chamber's responsibility to help these business owners. And there was like a lack of accountability, if you will. And so for me, it was really hard because I've wanted to share my story, but I've been very careful because I'm looking for a job right now. Like, I had a business for 12 years and I need employment, so I'm being very careful because a lot of the organizations I'm talking to are nonprofits. They're in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm trying to help other small businesses. So I want to be very careful about the language that I use, because this isn't meant to place blame. It's really to improve the process so that this doesn't happen to other small businesses. For us, it took us a little over a year to get open in that Avondale space. To give you some context, Sweets and Meats started as kind of a roadside pit stop back in 2012. We rented a commissary at the American Legion for 2 years so that we had access to an affordable commercial kitchen. We got our first food trailer in 2016. In 2017, we had our first brick and mortar that we opened in Mount Washington. We ran that for 5 years as a carryout. We added a second food truck in 2019. And 2022, we purchased a third food truck. So in 2023, we're actually operating 3 food trucks, and we the carry out, and we decided to repurpose it as catering only, simply for the fact that we had to cook for all 3 of those food trucks because our catering became 85% of our business. So we grew from a business that started with a $500 investment that we made ourselves to doing roughly 1.6 million at that time. So we were a thriving business. In 2025, the Cincinnati Business Courier recognized us on the Fast 55 list. We had grown 36% over 3 years. And in 2023, when we acquired that third food truck, is when Children's had reached out about the opportunity to open in Avondale. And at that time, Anton and I really weren't looking to open another restaurant because we had done that and we saw what was happening with the economy. After the pandemic, it was really tough for a lot of restaurants, especially if you didn't have dine-in seating. And we knew that we were in the beginning stages of what they had intended to do, like with the redevelopment of the Burnett Quarter along Burnett. We were kind of on an island, but we still accepted that, that risk, if you will, because it was Children's Hospital. And because, we had talked to Mr. Steiner out of Columbus, who was doing a lot of that redevelopment. Of course, Bill Witten, may he rest in peace. He was really integral in the relationship that we had started with Children's. And then, of course, the city of Cincinnati. And so we prayed on it. We wanted to be part of a community in Mount Washington. I've been a resident there 45 years. So for me, naturally, to open a business there made sense. But Avondale was a brand new market for us. And I thought that we would be very well received because there wasn't a lot of homemade options in that corridor. I myself spent a lot of time at Children's. When I was younger, my sister had cerebral palsy and epilepsy. We were at Children's all the time. And back in those days, I'm talking 40 years ago, it was just McDonald's. Like I remember going to get French fries after we left the hospital. And so it meant a lot to me personally to open in Avondale and to be part of that community. And not only were we met with resistance from like local folks, like there was a lot of support in Avondale, but there was also a lack of support because we were from outside Avondale and because I was the face of the business. And I didn't expect that. Especially because, if I'm being honest, like 95% of my staff was African American. So we looked like that community for the most part. We were very diverse. We're a certified women-owned business, small business enterprise. We have our EDGE certification, SLBE. We felt like we were doing all the right things, but it was just a really odd experience. And to make a long story short, when we started this process back in 2023, we went through the process of, we filled out what they call a courtesy inspection form with the city of Cincinnati. And so by doing that, you pay like $400 as a small business owner, and you are assigned a liaison from the city. And they work with the zoning department, the Board of Health, the building department. They get everyone together on one accord so that you know exactly what you need to do. I think, am I muted?
No, we hear you. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. And so we made that investment, but it still took like a year to get open. And during that time, we were carrying all the expenses of hiring and training new employees, the cost of equipment. During that time, equipment had gone up like 40% outside of the pandemic, like with, the tariffs and things like that. And then it took like 6 months just to get our smoker approved to be able to put that behind our building. So we went through 4 different architects. Of course, we're footing the bill for all of this. And Children's was a tremendous partner. Their community development department stood by us, every step of the way. But once we got open, we continued to fight on certain things that were out of our control, like parking. We had worked with the city to remove signs along Burnett that said you couldn't park after 4 p.m. because when we first opened, we had no dinner service. Those signs were supposed to already been removed. And so people would pull up and then they would see they couldn't park after 4 and they'd pull away. So we had like non-existent dinner service. So after a year of fighting to get a dinner service, we adjusted our hours. And then we got a lot of pushback of, well, they don't want our support because they're only open until 7 or they're only open till 6. Like we slowly adjusted the hours just because we couldn't continue to carry the labor and the food costs. Barbecue is a labor of love. We're cooking 14 to 16 hours. Everything's fresh every single day. It was a lot. And 24 months later, I still don't have the parking signs. What was happening is by 8:15 every single morning, all of the parking was full by Children's employees. So I had nowhere for customers to park. In addition to that, and I know Scotty Johnson from City Council helped with this as well as Ozzy. There was no lighting on our block. Like we had no street lights whatsoever. So when they, tore down the gas station that was across the street from us, and I'm speaking of, the corner of Northern and Burnett. If you're not familiar with Sweets and Meats, that's where we were located. We're right inside the Herald building. And they never put the streetlights back up. They budgeted for it, but it just never got done. And so from a safety standpoint, we even had residents of the Avondale community. A lot of the folks that came in were seniors. They're like, we're not going to come here after 5 o'clock. We just didn't feel safe. It's not well lit. And it wasn't saying anything about the neighborhood. It's just common sense. Like most people are not going to go walk in the dark anywhere. It doesn't matter what neighborhood it is. And so we worked hard to get that. And luckily, Ozzy got wind of it. He brought Scotty in, and Scotty contacted the city. And they were able to get that lighting done, but that took several months as well. And so there were just things that we couldn't control that were deterring business from coming in the door. And then on top of that, we just had the media that was constantly looking for something negative, like making what we were trying to be involved in the community, spending it to be a very negative thing. And we got a lot of flack for that. And I think, anytime you say anything about politics, you're annihilating 50% of your audience, no matter what. And I wasn't even being political. I was just stating facts. So I can go further with that. There are obviously other things, other barriers.
Yeah, that's a good.
The biggest thing for me is that I had contacted the city multiple times for help. I had contacted 3 members of the city council that had heard my concerns. The last 90 days we were open. None of them followed up. I contacted the city manager's office. I even contacted the city manager's office about the contract we had at the convention center, because we were awarded the contract inside the convention center as an S3E vendor that started in January of this year. It took us 2 years to be part of the RFP process, and we were so excited about it. But the things that were in our contract were not being met. Like, we had no signage at all at the convention center, like none. We were allowed to bring our A-frame sign, and that was it. And of course, if you're at a convention, if you've ever been to an exhibit hall, people have huge signage up. Like, you're not going to see an A-frame sign from across the convention hall, and all of their food was on the other side. I brought down $96,000 in food over a course of January to March, and we were only compensated $32,000. So that was also a factor. There were a lot of things that were beyond our control. I don't think there was a lot of oversight that was happening. We were never invited to the ribbon cutting. We were never invited to anything with the media at the convention center. And that was a huge deal to have a small business located inside the convention center. We worked hard for that. And I guess where I'm going with all of this is just, I've been a resident of Cincinnati for 45 years, and I knew what this investment, and I still know what this investment means, not only to Avondale, but for other businesses that look just like us, that are the size of us. And I felt like we were almost in a test run to see if it would work. And my concern with that is that there's other residents of Avondale that want to open businesses in Avondale, and I'm all for that, and I support that. And there's other businesses, other women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses that also want to open in Avondale, and fully support that. But my fear is that if we can't show that a 12-year business that's doing $2 million in sales can't make it in Avondale, what about these new businesses? What does that say? And are they going to be given an opportunity? And that's the biggest concern that I have. And I also am concerned that, I literally had to shut everything down. I didn't just close Avondale. Unfortunately, I didn't separate the entities. So Avondale, my commissary for catering, 3 food trucks, they were all one business. So I lost everything.
Anybody want to jump in with questions, comments?
I've kind of watched your career grow from a distance, from the outside looking in. I was there when you guys were a part of Mortar, and in the beginning, I've seen you grow from that. And I kind of was on the outside looking in, watching you guys grow, and I think you guys were doing a phenomenal job. My question is, going through the entire process and getting to where you were crying for help for the city, can you explain a little bit about how that might feel for, you touched on a little bit, but you've been in business for 12 years. How if they say there's an initiative to rebuild Avondale and to rebrand it, how is it if they're trying to rebrand it, and if a 12-year business like yourself is had difficulty and didn't make it, how do you think it's by design? Do you think that they're doing this on purpose, just to say, hey, look, we're trying to do something for that community, but throw roadblocks all the way so the developers can come in, buy the land, buy it cheaper, and then re-gentrify it gentrify like they have everything else?
Yeah, so I don't think it's intentional. I don't think that anybody is trying to sabotage any business. I think that everyone's heart is there. But I found what happens, and I've experienced this as an entrepreneur the last 12 years, and I'm glad you brought up Mortar. Shout out to them, because they have been with us every step of the way. Is that with Mortar, there's that whole hand-holding period. No matter if you are in the program or you're an alumni, you're Mortar, right? We are Mortar. And so consistently, even in October of last year, I sat down with Alan Woods, the CEO of Mortar. We had a roundtable to discuss where I was at, and kind of a plan because I wanted to fix this. I wanted to make it work. I literally liquidated my own savings, my own retirement to save the business. Like I was all in. And I think what's terrifying is that a lot of times, and I know this is going to offend a lot of people, that we check boxes. I feel like we do what looks good, what feels good, what we have a heart for, but there's not always the follow-up that comes afterwards and the accountability that comes afterwards. So we're making a tremendous investment, multi-million dollars spent on the Avondale Town Center, multi-million dollars to be spent and have been spent in the development with studies and things like that for the Burnett Quarter. But there needs to be some type of structure after to ensure the success of those businesses. And so one of the people I worked with was Bill Winton through the Avondale Business Corporation. There's the business council, there's community council in Avondale. But I mean, when you talk about resources, I know that you mentioned me, like I was part of Alloy, the Small Business Development Center, the African American Chamber. I went to MBAC, Mortar. We were part of the Cincinnati Chamber, Northern Kentucky Chamber. It's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of involvement or access to resources. It's just sometimes the system is not always set up to support. And the reason that I'm wanting to share my story the most is because these other businesses, a lot of them were new. We had a 12-year footprint in Cincinnati. So a lot of people were blaming them for being bad business owners or not having, business acumen or having done the research. I don't think that that's true. Some of it could be true, but I think there has to be that support. And if the city is willing to put that much money into Avondale, there needs to be more structure. There needs to be more support around these businesses to ensure that they are successful.
Anybody have a comment or question?
Well, I was going to ask Kristen. Thank you again for sharing your story, and I'm sorry that things turned out this way for you. You always pull for people to be successful, especially when you invest so much of your life and your finances into a dream. One of the things that we try to get across in this podcast is, what are some solutions or learnings? You talk about new businesses. And so looking over your experience, if you said, hey, if I had it to do over again, hindsight is 2020, knowing what I know now, what would I have done differently? What would you recommend to somebody who is either just beginning or somebody who was like you, who's established, who's trying to take on a new venture in a neighborhood that's trying to develop but isn't there yet? Like, what would you, based on your experiences, what would be a list of tips or suggestions you would have?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. I think first and foremost, what I have realized is bigger is not better. Scaling is really, really important. And I felt like we were ready. We had a carry out for 5 years. We only closed it because we had run out of space. Our space was only 1,400 square feet, and we were running catering. We were running 3 food trucks. On a Saturday, we were doing 14 events. So it was a lot to do out of that space. We also often heard that location, right? In Mount Washington, it's not right off the highway. It's very much, you have to be intentional to come visit us and to come buy food with us. You're either living in Anderson or you're getting off 71 and having to travel 15, 20 minutes from Red Bank to get to Mount Washington. It's very much a destination location. So we felt like Avondale was perfect because it was right off the highway. It was centrally located. There are more employees in Avondale per capita than any other neighborhood in the entire city. In addition, Avondale wanted businesses. They were supportive. The community people that live in Avondale want to see Avondale thrive. You people that lived in Avondale like Ozzy their entire life, they're very proud to live in Avondale. So that was attractive to us. And we also wanted a diversity. Mount Washington isn't the most diverse neighborhood. It's getting there, but it's not, I've lived there. I've seen a lot of changes. So those were all things that were important. But as far as learning goes, I've had business coaches. I always highly recommend having a business advocate, a business coach. I worked with the Small Business Development Center since I started the business in 2014. I also have a SCORE mentor. I always have, Alloy is actually investing in Avondale specifically. Avondale and Evanston, they're targeting as areas that they want to assign coaches to. So if people are wanting resources, they can reach out to these organizations and it's free. Like all of those services are offered for free. But as far as the biggest thing I learned, and I'm going to share something personal too, is I said bigger is not better, right? Because I had a business that was profitable, but adding that additional extension definitely stretched me more than I had anticipated. And more so that the stress that I endured during that opening of that year, I was carrying the weight of so much and so much stress that I actually developed an autoimmune disorder. So in September, the same month that we opened in 2024, I experienced numbness for the first time. Like the middle section of my body was completely numb for like a month. And I was going to the doctor and trying to figure out what was wrong. But if I'm being fully transparent with this group, I was working 100 hours a week because I thought that's what I had to do as a successful entrepreneur in order to run my business, in order to make the profit, because the margins are very thin. They're 3 to 6%. I was paying everyone else before myself. So I continued to do that. And by December of 24, the same year we opened, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I will tell you, the stress of carrying everything last year with the parking, with, the issues with the signage or lack of signage and visibility, the issues with the lighting, food costs going up, labor costs, and then of course, just being so stretched that I was managing 3 locations essentially. I had a lot of flares. Like I lost my vision at one point. I couldn't use my right leg. I'm sharing all this personal information just to say, like with small business owners, it's important to take care of yourself. And when I said bigger is not better, my health should have been most important. And it was the last thing on my list. I was all about success and what people saw and what they thought and growing and these opportunities. And the things that are attractive about these opportunities is that they're affordable for most small businesses. A lot of us can't afford to have rent in a Hyde Park or to go out and take a $2 million loan to build a new restaurant. So these and I'm using staples because these aren't my words. This is what, the media shows, the underdeveloped areas or food deserts, if you will. It's attractive to small businesses because it is what we can afford. It's what we can have. And there's not a lot of other outside lending opportunities or investments. 3CDC does help front the costs of build outs with some businesses, but this space was a 3rd generation restaurant. 2 restaurants had been there before, Subway, Waggle. So the investment up front wasn't as much as we would have experienced with a full build out. We still invested $194,000. So it was still a big bill. And then on top of that, we carried the restaurant. We were losing money every week because we just weren't making the sales.
Hey, Kristen, can I jump in? And you said a lot of stuff that I could get your thoughts about, but you just said something about, like, as an entrepreneur, not worrying about what people think and what they saw. Could you stick with that for a second? Because I think it's just human, right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do get caught up with that, and they start making decisions for the wrong reasons. That seemed to be like what you were implying, not putting words in your mouth. But can you give me your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. We always want to be successful. And I think for the longest time, I've done a lot of work in the last few months since shutting down, therapy, you name it. And I tied my worth to what I could produce. I was so worried about what the public thought of me. I thought winning all the awards was bringing me joy. I thought, being in the top 10 list or building, expansion, things like that was going to draw positive attention and give me fulfillment. But at the end of the day, like, I was not taking care of myself. Like, I was already working 100 hours before we opened the restaurant. So I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. But to me, it was the big name, right? It's Children's Hospital. When Children's Hospital contacts you, like, even if you didn't want to take the call, you're going to take the call because it's an amazing opportunity. It's a great partner. And I love Children's and I love the people we worked at Children's, but I just think that I took on too much too soon. And I didn't have necessarily all the support that I needed in place internally, not with the partners I mentioned, like Score and Alloy, but you have to have structure in your business. And a lot of small businesses, as entrepreneurs, we take it all on ourselves instead of outsourcing. You have to know when it's time to outsource. Like, I was still doing social media. I was doing all my payroll. I was doing my books. I was doing scheduling. Like, those are things that I should have handed off to somebody else a long time ago. I just felt I was looking at the numbers. How do I get bigger? I'm financing this myself. I don't have investors. I don't have access to capital. So basically, I am the capital. Like, instead of taking a salary, I'm putting what I should be making back into the business. And I'm taking funds that I would have paid somebody else to do and just taking it on myself. So I don't know if that answers that question, but
Kristen, I want to thank you for, again, just for your transparency and sharing this information. I think, there are a lot of us who are on this podcast who have entrepreneurial enterprises and can relate to a lot of what you're saying. And I get it. It becomes a part of what a lot of people may or may not get is when you generate or you create a business, you take that on, it becomes your reputation. It becomes a part of how you think of yourself. And of course, people, particularly in this day and age with social media, are always sizing you up. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a perception about your business and how it's performing or how it's not performing. And you do have to have a healthy separation between the business that you're running and kind of who you are. It's something that, that I've had to, in some of my experiences have had to learn to separate, and so everything that you just said, I wholeheartedly can relate to so much of it, and can only imagine. I mean, your business for 12 years was far beyond, where I'm at this point, only about halfway as far as where you were, but so much of what you said resonated. I think it's so good for people who are thinking of getting into small business or entrepreneurial pursuits to hear those types of real stories about, not just the financial, but the psychological and emotional tolls of that, which are very real.
yeah, I received that. Other thing that I just wanted to point out, kind of to what you were saying, is that for me, I let the business become my identity. I was almost like worshiping a false god, right? I'm a believer, and that's not a good place to be. And I think a lot of businesses feel like, especially entrepreneurs, like solopreneurs, they're the voice of the business, they're the face of the business, and that can happen pretty easily. And so it's important not to get caught up in that, where the business is everything. It was my baby, but like, it's not everything, a be all end all, and I let it become that.
Is there a chance of a rebrand and a relocation opportunity? Because I'm listening to what you're saying, and I come to Kentucky. Come on, I've seen. Come to Kentucky. Come to Kentucky, man. We would love to have that energy and that spirit over here, and your food, for real.
Yeah, yours just took my question. That really wasn't saying go to Kentucky, but what's next for Sweets and Meats? Because I was reading the article on City Beat, and I did read the part regarding your health, which was kind of like the main reason for you having to close things down. But all the other things that you expressed too. I'm also an entrepreneur, business owner in catering, so I've been taking notes, and your story really, really hit home. And I just want to know what's next. Like, I know this is not it for you, so what's plan B?
I appreciate it. For me personally, like when I closed Sweets and Meats, it was a complete surrender. God set me down when I got sick, and I offered to do whatever he wanted in order to restore my vision, restore my health. And so I'm really just leaning and waiting and being still to hear what he has for me. And the same token, I know Anton did not want to close by any means. It was really hard for our entire team. Nobody wants to lose their job, but for us, it wasn't just a job. It was literally our passion. It was everything. And he is still wanting to continue forward. But we worked because we worked together, divide and conquer. I did the booking, he did the cooking. It's tough to do it when you're a solopreneur. And so I know that he's still keeping his options open. I do see him doing, at least on the very least, catering, if not opening another space, if he can find the right partners. For me, because of the lived experience I've had the last decade, I want to help other small businesses. I want to prevent them from making the same mistakes I did. I went from startup to surviving during a pandemic, to surviving the death of both my parents, my only sibling, to expansion, to having contracts with the city. Like, I've seen a lot, and I want to be able to bless other people with that. So I really am trying to look at how could I be a business advisor. I'm meeting with a lot of these organizations, or maybe even starting something myself to be a business advocate.
Yeah, I can see it.
On another tip before she goes, I'm serious. Come to Kentucky. There's a place over in Kentucky called Spark House. I'm not for sure if you're familiar with it or not, but Spark House. Come over. I'll meet you. We'll have coffee, and I'll introduce you to some people who have same. It's an entrepreneurial hub to where we get to collide with our stories. Come to Kentucky. Yeah, man.
I would love that. I'm definitely open to coffee dates. I've been to Spark House at the Unpolished events that have been there.
All right.
I'm very open.
Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I really do. Appreciate the candor.
Yep.
And let's stay connected.
All right. And if you want to talk catering, I'm happy to do that too.
Well, I mean, one thing you talked about, the food trucks. Are food trucks a good business in this city right now?
It's very saturated. And when that happens, there always a business owner that's going to do something for nothing, if you will. And I say that with love, but it's more challenging because all of these events cost a lot of money to get involved with. The insurance is expensive, fuel is expensive, all the things. And a lot of these big events like Taste of Cincinnati, Taste of, Red, White, Blue Ash, things like that. It's a very long day. You're cooking in the morning, but you also have to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. You don't get done till midnight. It's a big investment. And there's over 200 licensed mobiles in Cincinnati. So you're competing with so many people, and nobody wants to pay for the services anymore. Like, I would say the average ask of any corporation is $8 to $10 for a meal, sometimes 12 if you're offering a drink. And you can't even get that for fast food anymore. So for us, it was like the margins were very thin. People wanted us to do these events for very, very low dollar. They've never asked a caterer to do that. But because it was a food truck, it's seen as a cheaper option, and it's not a cheaper option. The upfront investment may not be as much as like a brick and mortar, but there's still a lot of licensing. There's a lot of credentials you have to have. I would definitely say to do it. I was already in the process of selling a food truck when we had a food truck totaled at the end of last year. So I think if you scale right, it could be lucrative. But for us, like, we wouldn't go out unless we charged a food minimum. So our food minimum was $1,500. Unless we were guaranteed to make that amount of money, we couldn't move because it costs us that much to operate.
Kristen, just want to say that I'm Phil Heimlich, just jumped on. First of all, I'm really, really sorry about what you've been through financially and especially medically. But I'll tell you what impresses me about you is your faith. It's easy to be a person of great faith when everything's going well, the money's coming in and all, but you're obviously at a very challenging point, difficult point, yet you still maintain your faith in the Lord. And I just really impressed with that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, when I was going through all this last year, for those of you that know me personally, I was in crisis last year. Like, there was even some legal stuff that came up that I don't want to get into too much, but it hindered our business so much. I was getting calls from reporters every single week. Clients were getting, like, it was ridiculous. I got baptized last August, and like it's been a journey for me. So I appreciate you saying that. It hasn't always been the case. For a long time, I thought I was abandoned with all the losses and everything I experienced. But I'm in a much better place. I'm trying to be very intentional about doing this with gratitude, shutting down with gratitude. My next chapter with gratitude, being very intentional. Thank you.
All right. Well, Kristen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Would love to be back on anytime. And if there's anybody out there that does have questions related to small business, if I can be a resource, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll make sure to follow up with my information.
All right. Hey, you put a price tag on that, Kristen. That's a
I
service.
need to, because I don't have a job right now.
You need to do it. Don't underestimate yourself. You got the experience. You've done it. So, but thank you so much, Kristen.
Another one opens.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day. Yeah. Well, that was interesting. Wow. Very deep. Very deep. I got to process that. Yeah, it was a whole lot there.
Whole lot there. I mean, you can't even scratch the surface of a lot of the things that she said, in the time that we have on this podcast. But as I'm just listening and depositing so much of what she says, there really is, the gaps that exist between what the city can and should be doing, particularly for small businesses, because small businesses are the lifeblood of your community. I say this time and again, we focus on the big corporations or the big jobs because, they're the highest paying, they pay the most. But the reality is most people are employed by small businesses. When you think about, when she talked about the majority of her workforce was Black. And so when you talk about Black employment or unemployment, how many Black people lost their jobs, lost an income when she went out of business? I mean, these are the types of things that these are the types of things you don't hear being talked about enough at City Hall, right? Like there's so much garbage that we spend time talking about and wrestling with in this city that we don't spend enough time talking about that. How do you make people like Kristen or Country Meats or TNT or people who have a dream and who are trying to make this city better through their entrepreneurship, hire people and make a living? How do we make sure those people are successful, that we're not setting them up for failure? And that, I mean, it's unconscionable that you can't, while there were some things that she said that I was kind of like, well, I wonder how much of this she knew or anticipated before she moved there, kind of like the parking, right? Like that's one of the things, like if parking is going to be an issue where you're at, you kind of wonder, like, is that something that you thought about or you didn't discover was an issue until you got there? And why does it take the city so long to rectify that? Or lighting? Why, if you're going to if you're trying to get businesses to move into a particular area, why would you not make sure that that area already has proper lighting? Because that's kind of like a no-brainer that any businesses that are going to want to move in there are going to need adequate lighting for their customers, particularly if they're open at night. It's like it's these sorts of things that just makes you wonder, where is the emphasis and the focus on these types of issues that are the things that really matter to people's lives and livelihood versus, some of the other stuff they're spending time on.
So are we all in agreement that the city should do more to support businesses? Like, I don't know, keep them afloat, give them stipends or something like that?
I don't think this one.
And what's the criteria for supporting businesses?
In my opinion, I don't think this one right here was the cities. I think that the people who contacted her, I don't know how it all went down, but if Children's Hospital contacted her to come with this great opportunity, I would have said, you're fitting the bill for all of it for the first year and a half. I don't want to touch my bank account. That's the approach I would have took, or I would have just stayed where I'm at. Because like she said, bigger is not always better. I haven't seen one person from Jimmy G. We're going to go back to Jimmy G, his restaurant downtown, who they used his name and his likeness, but whenever Jimmy G had something to say, they booted him and moved on. From him to Molly Wellman and her adventures to everybody who goes who has a brand and takes it, keeps going bigger and bigger and scaling too big. I haven't seen it work out for that many people. 6 a.m. has came over to Kentucky. They're scaling their coming, and so we'll see how that works out for them over there.
Great. Let me just say, great breakfast place. Great breakfast place.
Do Republicans support this idea? Like, what do you?
I eat at 6 in the morning all the time.
No, I'm talking about the idea that like cities should give money to local businesses to keep them afloat. Right? If you're a pioneer investor, in a neighborhood like Avondale that, the city has a vested interest in seeing it redeveloped, doesn't that mean you should invest in those pioneer businesses, help keep them afloat, or is that too much like socialism or what? I'm just throwing it out there for the sake of conversation.
Yeah, he's trying to set me up. That's what he's doing.
No, I'm really not.
The answer is yes.
Set me up.
The answer is yes, Nathan. Republicans used to care about that. Again, as I mentioned, Phil's good friend and country club buddy, Steve Shabbat, sat on the small business. Admitted he ran the committee in Congress on small business, if I'm not mistaken. And
my good friend where I endorsed his opponent in the race that he lost. Yeah. In fact, the one before that and the one he lost, I endorsed his opponent. Yeah, my good friend. I don't think the guy would speak to me. If I walked down the street, he'd act like he didn't know me. But continue.
But that's all Steve Shabbat used to play, is the trumpet of small business and how we got to support small business. So yes, Republicans, they do believe in that.
It's more of a city administrative thing. Like if the city of Cincinnati wanted to have, and I'm sure they probably do at their economic development department, have rent abatement or some kind of some kind of program that supports small businesses. But I mean, that's just one program. And I've seen my buddy go through it at Newport on the Levee. They came at him with all like, here, put your store here. We'll support you. They gave him all this money to build it out. It looked beautiful. But whenever the business wasn't there to support it, he still had to pay that recoupment. He had to pay all they're in business for a reason. They'll sell you a dream. These developers will sell you a dream. But when it comes back down to you having to pay that back, plus, maintain what you have been maintaining. And if it doesn't work out, they're going, who's next? It's a tax write-off for them, pretty much. I mean, it's a viable tax write-off for them. It's not something it's something they can go and say, hey man, we tried, we helped, we gave this person $2 million and it still didn't work. I mean, so this is business altruition. I hate to see it happen to good people. I hate to see it happen to good people like her.
The saddest part about that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, TNT.
No, I was just going to say, you also have to take into consideration that health, like she sacrificed a great deal. Just saying, even as it came to like payments to her employees and everything else, she was taking on a great load. And that's real easy for entrepreneurs when you're starting off to do everything. And if you don't take yourself, and I seen her shirt said self-care, and take a moment for yourself. Like I was just thinking recently, like if I was to get into an accident or broken leg, broken arm, you know what I mean? Like I'm done. I messed up for a few months.
We'd kick in, Nicole. We'd help out. We'd kick in.
You do the recipes, but I mean that's a real struggle. So just like for that to happen to her, that was probably a hard pill for her to swallow. And her whole team still wanting to proceed forward, but she's kind of like the heart of it. And so it's kind of, you have to take those in consideration. Yes, can the city help and invest and do stipends? Absolutely. But it's still what you're able to do with what you're given. And sometimes unforeseen things happen that, you don't always account for. And then just economically, the times right now, like everything costs an exorbitant amount of money, food, electricity, everything else. So you got brick and mortar, you got bills to pay. And she said she wasn't bringing in enough to like sustain that. And then on top of like what she was saying in the very, very beginning, really didn't tap into that, was just like this branding by the media about her being like a DEI type of business. And there's even some backlash of her being like a white woman owning what was put out there to be like a black-owned business. So
did you say Phil? Is that what
the
I heard?
community, like, did she have total community support? And I'm glad like people like Ozzie Davis, came in there and try to, do his part and try to help lift her community, and people that know her, people in the chat that's saying like, this is a good person. She works very hard and everything else. But, sometimes you can have all of that and things still fall apart. But just to know that when one door closed, another one open. I just wanted to know that she's still going to press on, definitely take care of herself and her health first, but that this isn't it for her. So, yeah.
John writes, no, too much government involvement hurts small businesses. Is that true? The city government can help by taking care of public safety so people want to come to the area and spend money. So John says no. He says too much government is a problem.
Well, what I agree with is what he points to are all of the things that the city can and should do as their responsibility of creating. I agree wholeheartedly that the main function of government should be to create environments where businesses can thrive, right? Whether that's lighting, adequate parking, crime prevention, all of the roads that are not crumbling around you. Like these are all responsibilities that the city should take seriously to make sure that businesses can thrive. Having shovel-ready sites, not letting entire blocks or shopping centers deteriorate into, hazards and things of that nature. Like those are things that government can and should be involved in to kind of help businesses thrive. So even if it's not giving money or grants directly to businesses, which I think they should, or whether that's, low interest loans or whatever it is that you want to come up with from a financing area in which cities can help businesses get off the ground or get out of trouble when they find themselves in trouble, just like they provide eviction assistance to people who are getting ready to get kicked out of their homes and they don't want to see them on the street. You should provide that same type of you can and probably should provide that same type of support to small businesses, particularly those that have been in your community for 12 years. And I'll let anybody else get in after I say this. TNT, you do not want Phil coming into your business if something happened to you. He don't season his food. This man gave me some popcorn at his house, didn't have no salt on it, no cheddar. He just gave me some dry, flavorless popcorn. So you do not want that man stepping in for you.
Yeah. No flavor. You need some flavor in your life, Phil.
Yeah. Before we move on with that passage, I want to say one thing. I want to give her props for listening to her. I don't know how to say her inner spirit. She said she got baptized, and lots of times when we hear the call of our higher power, we shoot it off, we quench it, so to speak. And I want to say it's good for her listening to the call and finding out what that voice was from her higher power to tell her that it was okay for her to stop.
Let's move on here to Phil's favorite topic. I know you've been dying for this topic right here. Cincinnati renews its commitment to the collaborative.
Here we go.
Yeah, your favorite topic.
Can I say something, by the way?
Sure.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you all for welcoming me back from vacation. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I do. I've been gone, in case you didn't notice, about 10 days. I do want to thank my good friend Kevin Aldridge for allowing my family to stay in his chalet in the Alps. So, Kevin, thank you. Appreciate that. I want I left the generous tip for the help. So just want to. I do have one. May I bring up one issue before you guys all jump on me about this?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I want to quote. You know how often on this show I am painted as living in some wealthy enclave. Like I'm isolated from the inner city. Well, let me just bring up in case you didn't see it, a Cincinnati Enquirer article. Now, again, it may not be that serious a media source, but I think they were probably correct about it. Now I'm just reading this here. I live in Sims Township. Okay. This is an article from last week. It says, pair sentenced for running prostitution enterprise from local spa. And it says 2 people have been ordered to serve time for running a prostitution enterprise out of a Sims Township spa, according to prosecutors. And they were sentenced to all this time and everything. Now that I live in Sims Township, okay? So the point is I'm dealing with prostitutes and pimps, just like, people in the hood are, okay? So I don't want any more of this, these accusations that I live in some, special,
Listen here, Robert Kraft.
I just want to get
listen here, Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft had that in his neighborhood too. All right, so ain't nobody buying that. Ain't nobody buying that Sims Township sob story. We know what's up.
Wait a second. I know one of you guys are going to say, well, Phil, you probably patronized it. No. Okay, so I was in there a few times, but I always wondered why the masseuses asked me if I wanted any extras. I never understood what that meant, but I'm fairly innocent when it comes to these things. But the point being, out here in Sims Township, we struggle with the same issues that they do elsewhere. So,
different collar crime, not color, different collar crime going on out there in Sims.
And you wonder why we didn't welcome you back with that kind of story.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Welcome back, Phil.
Welcome back, Phil, with that story. Thank you.
I'm glad you let her finish her story. I'm glad you didn't interrupt her. I just thought you were going to come in and be like, oh, what's going on?
feeling his stories. But Cincinnati Renew's commitment to the collaborative. You know, I read something in the last, I don't know, a couple days that since George Floyd, the number of police officer unalivings has actually increased. And so with that as a context, you know, when I look at what's happening here in Cincinnati,
The number of police
think-
officers, what? I didn't hear the rest of the number of police
since
officers.
George Floyd, the number of police officer involved killings, unalivings has increased.
Nationally or here?
Nationally.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking, wow, man, we're very lucky here to have the Cincinnati Collaborative. We all agree that this is the right move for Cincinnati. Is that correct? If I can correctly spell there. Do we all agree with that?
It is, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it, Nathan, because if you recall when John Cranley was the mayor of Cincinnati, he went through this quote unquote collaborative refresh, right? And that was supposed to be this kickstarting of the collaborative. So if the collaborative refresh was sort of a recommitment and a renewal to the collaborative, why do we need another recommitment and renewal to the collaborative? I have said for many years, the collaborative is a good thing and it's a great thing. And it's one of those things that the city likes to hold up and nationally and say, hey, look at us as an example. And it's a great framework. And to the extent that it is being used, it's being effective. But the collaborative has never been funded to the fullest by the city. It is not, in my opinion, staffed to the fullest that it should be. I mean, when you ask who is the face of the collaborative for the city of Cincinnati, what would your answer be?
Iris.
Yeah.
And Iris Rowley is not an employee of the city of Cincinnati.
She's a consultant.
You know, and I'll say this because this is what I've said to Iris. I think the problem is that the city is completely comfortable with allowing Iris Rowley to be the face of the collaborative. So she takes all of the heat, takes all of the responsibility for what does and what doesn't work. Meanwhile, where's the city resources? Where's the city oversight? Where's the city staff that is committed to executing all of these principles? Why? It's the same question that I had about why had nobody been looking at these contact cards, which were the birth and the genesis of the collaborative. So am I excited that there's this renewal commitment to the collaborative? Yeah, if they actually execute it, if they actually do it, if they actually put some bodies and money behind it. But I'm skeptical because for 25 years, they haven't done that.
I think it's real easy to be critical, but Iris does a lot. And it isn't just her. She has the community, all the way from the board that oversees the complaint authority board, to the different meetings, to the podcast. She has dedicated every Wednesdays, different ones, just to keep the community a part of it, and then to also bring in information. So the meeting that was held this past Thursday, over 100 people showed up, and this was the community. I seen a lot of people. I didn't stay too long. I was more in the capacity of like providing food, but the people that I did see is just a lot of people that I always see in the community that are committed, that are wanting to be a part of these different teams that are going to look inside the issue and help create a solution. And that's all we really can ask for with real leadership, is that when these things occur, that we have the type of leadership that is not trying to take accountability for what is going on. There's an issue, let's find a solution. Some people just want to emphasize the problem and point fingers, and other people want to be a problem solver. And that's always been Iris. She's always been able to, collect the data, find volunteers, get information, and come back to the community and present things in real solutions that we're able to have things like a contact card to evaluate and see that there are disparities here and there. Like she was explaining to me, we're one of the few cities that even have that. And that's because of the brainstorming not just herself. She has attorneys like attorney Al Gerstein and different ones who work together with her to make these things possible. And so it's not just her by herself, but she is the face. And a lot of times you do have one person that's the face of a community, and we do need to be recommitted and refreshed, because issues are always evolving in policing. We may have to have concerns about ICE coming in, or when it was the state patrol coming in and they're not really abiding by the collaborative. How do we work through these different scenarios that puts a wedge between police and community? And so these are challenging and hard things to take on, but there is no better person than Iris, who has been dedicated to this for many, many decades, to take this on. And I believe in her ability to resolve them. And I believe in a community that supports her.
So we all agree, Phil? What do you think?
Well, looking at the article, one of the articles on this, the city manager says that adherence to, as far as Kevin's point that the city's not really doing anything, it's the city manager says that adherence to the collaborative agreement is part of the department's performance metrics. And this is before campaign zero, by the way. In other words, that she and the other people in the administration are judged by how they do in sort of putting the collaborative agreement in place or in operating. And that's pretty significant when your job is dependent on that. And then Adam Haney makes the comment. He says he's all committed. And he makes the point that basically I'm going to be held accountable. And if I don't follow the recommendations on the collaborative, they're going to get another police chief. And I don't want that. And I think, and I can tell you from my experience, I'll guarantee you, if Adam Haney, who, by the way, I know and I think highly of, if Adam Haney doesn't adhere or support that agreement, he will be out, and he will be out. So it seems to me that there is significant accountability built into the city, as far as the collaborative agreement goes.
Yeah, sounds like it. And is that a good thing?
And by the way, another thing, if you don't mind my adding one.
Is that a good thing, Phil? In your opinion?
Can
you hear me?
Let me finish. Let me say one other thing. Okay.
Okay.
When Iris Rowley was asked if the current about the adherence to the community agreement, she says she's confident the current city administration is moving in the right direction on fair policing. Okay. So she's supporting the actions of the current administration as far as adhering to the collaborative agreement. In fact, she says there's a lot of things, this is her quote, happening behind the scenes, not just at Government Square, but all the transit sites and now throughout downtown to ensure children are safe and that they're having positive interactions with the police. So she seems to be saying that the city's doing a pretty good job.
All right. And so do you think that that's a good thing? That the metrics of how their police is being judged includes the collaborative, how it's implemented? Is the collaborative a good thing?
Well, put it this way, I'm okay with that as long as there's also accountability for the amount of crime, okay, and what's being done to reduce crime. If everything is based on police community relationships or relations, and crime is going up, to me, that's not a success.
I don't even think that's reasonable to assume. I think you read it as one of the metrics, not the only metrics. Is the collaborative good for Cincinnati in our future? I would say 100% yes, it is. What do you think, Phil?
I just said, to me, I'm more concerned about being people in the administration being judged on what they're doing to reduce crime myself as a higher priority than are the police getting necessarily everybody liking what the police are doing. I am totally opposed to, and by the way, I voted in favor of the charter amendment when I was there, which was strongly opposed by the police union to allow the city to pick a police chief from anywhere in the country, not just within its own ranks, even though I think business practices are that you usually get a better person when you get somebody who is within the ranks. But I still voted for that. So I'm not just a blind support for the police.
Okay, still trying to nail you down. So is that a yes? Maybe
Well,
you
I
think
mean,
it's
again,
good?
I don't know what you're saying. You say, put it this way: I think police community relations are important. I think police officers should be held accountable
Okay.
for when they act improperly, and I also think we should have certainly as much, if not more, focus on protecting people.
All right. It sounds like that's a yes. Then we all agree it's been good for the city. All right, that's a good thing. And I don't think you could put a. I don't know. I just think it's very hard to put a price tag on what the collaborative has meant to this city. I think it's impossible to quantify something that has not happened. But I do know that when we had the unrest and so many people were in the streets, there was a big dollar amount that was assigned to what was lost in downtown Cincinnati. That hasn't happened again. I think it's good for business, and I think it's good for the overall quality of people's lives. Make Cincinnati the kind of place where everybody feels like, at the very least, they're going to be heard and going to be safe, even if that's from law enforcement in some cases. So, but I was amazed. Why do you think that is? Why is it after George Floyd? After George Floyd, right? That the number of police unalivings has gone up. You would think it would at least be, I don't know, I would have thought it would have went down. We have such a national moment about George Floyd. Seemed like we all agree that, okay, we need, common sense policing. But then the statistics say that, nationally speaking, nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. Why do you think that is?
Well, I thought the point of the whole George Floyd thing was not that there was a police killing, but it was totally unjustified and may very likely because of the race of the person who was shot. The fact
Yeah.
that there have been an increase in police shootings itself, it could be that there's been an increase in crime and that many of those shootings were justified. So I don't think just saying that alone goes against the whole George Floyd thing.
Yeah, I have to agree with Phil on that point. I think that, sometimes if you just look at the flat numbers without the context of what went on and what happened in terms of, the police shootings, like when you talk about Cincinnati and what was going on, the 15, I think, what was it, 15, 16 black males or African Americans who had gotten killed in a relatively short period. I think it might have been like a decade or less, that sort of led up to the civil unrest. And then the collaborative that came on the heels of that was, there was a lot of questions around police tactics and how those deaths happened. And so that is really what the collaborative agreement is trying to address: use of force, bias policing. These are community problem oriented solving policing. Those are all elements of what the collaborative was designed and is trying to attack. So when Phil talks about tying crime data or crime numbers directly to the collaborative, I don't know. I mean, somebody like Iris might be more able to speak on that than
I'm not
anything.
saying tie it to the collaborative. I'm just saying that people in the city administration should be held accountable for both.
Sounds good to me. I get it. What do you guys think? I mean, terrorist TNT. What does that say anything to you? That the fact that the number of police involved unalivings has gone up since George Floyd? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Oh, I muted you? Okay. Oh, I sure did. Sorry about that.
Because thundering and lightning maybe is really raining hard. But I think we have to go back and remember, the era, the time that we were in. So this was 2020. We had the trifecta of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, all this happening with George Floyd. And so we had the whole movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. This was under the Trump presidency. He was from 2017 to 2021. And so, you already had a heightened level of just like discourse of us versus the police and Black Lives Matter versus. So it was just like, and you had leadership at the very top kind of like going to attaboy, like you do what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like hit them upside the heads if you want to. So to me, it became an elevation because of the leadership, and then the accountability was lacking. We went through that period where we have Biden and we start seeing more and more accountability, but now Trump is back, and what we see with ICE right now is just like they are like a army in itself of just doing whatever they want with no accountability, killing citizens and everything else. And so some of the same things that we saw in 2020, where it's just like, arbitrarily they do what they want to do, and they're going to get away with it. There's no Department of Justice that's going to uh, uh, oversee and bring down decrees. Matter of fact, they have like eliminated, consent decrees across the country. And so more and more departments are feeling like at liberty that come on back, do what you want. But a lot of them have left, or at least a lot of the bad police, I believe, have left and went to ICE because they asked for that.
And ICE is the only police force that wears masks. I mean, they say, oh, well, we want to protect our identity. What do you mean protect our identity? Every police officer in the country doesn't have a mask. We don't do that. There was somebody, one writer, who said the only other entity that wears masks besides ICE is Hamas. I mean, to me, that thing with the masks is just outrageous in a free society.
And they unmarked vehicles. And so you have all these elements in place where people feel like they're above the law. They can do what they want, and that even if you're an American citizen, you can be abused or even unalived by your government, by government officials. And so, that to me explains some of the heightened of, abuses to citizens across the country. And since 2020, it's because of the leadership that basically is saying that, giving these people the go ahead, that you're protected, that now we don't even know the person who killed Alex Preddy and Renee Good. We don't even know who they are. They have written into law, just like right now, recently in the state of Ohio, now you have to be 15 feet away from a police officer. They're making all these different, concessions to make it difficult for you and your First Amendment right to protest, your First Amendment right to free speech. It's just like all of these things are hampered to, again, protect people that could be bad actors and harming citizens or just violating people's rights. And it's okay. It's okay right now. And this shouldn't be okay. So
well, I'll tell you something else that's different from this time and almost any other time. In the past, when you have a killing by police or just about any official, there is always an investigation. Now, granted, sometimes, I'm going back to Kent State. Sorry, I'm dating myself, but sometimes they're kind of watered down or they're covered up. But there's always an investigation. As far as I can tell, when it comes to those 2 killings in Minneapolis, which was what, January? What's that, 5? I mean, there is no investigation. I've heard nothing about it. I mean, the idea that I'd rather they do one and make it a cover-up, but something, at least they're doing it. But there is no, as far as I can tell, there is no investigation whatsoever going on in regard to that. And I assume the guy in Houston and the guy in Maine as well.
No accountability. So when there's no accountability, then naturally you would think there will be an increase in violence and abuse against citizens. So until accountability comes back, people are being held accountable, and no one's having a sucker attack because, people are having the audacity to say, like, what you did was a violation that looks kind of like, murder or crime. In the past, it was just all this challenge of like, oh, well, maybe he feared for his life and everything else. And then it's just like unequivocal. But now it seems like more and more people are starting to see, like, they're not taking what these officials say, like, oh, he tried to run me over with a truck, like that. You can even trust what they say. And what's happening on a national level has always kind of happened on a state level, where this was systemic racism. This is what it looks like when the system is being utilized in a way where people are using their powers to abuse and take advantage and violate people's rights. And it's the only good thing about it is that more and more people are seeing that the possibility of what people in power, the wrong people in power, what that looks like and how much harm that can do to people across the spectrum. It don't even matter if you black, white, Democrat, woman, gay, lesbian, like how that feels is painful when you feel like you're powerless against an entire system that can just wipe you out. You're here today, gone tomorrow, and there's no accountability for it. That's a problem.
Let me bring something else up. We're back on Facebook, everybody. We were off. I think it was a storm. The storm kicked us off. I had to refresh on my end. Took me a minute to figure it all out on the fly, but once I did, we got back up. So people will hopefully follow us and find us and get notifications. May take a minute. Hopefully they may come back. If not, who bonded Phil out? I think it was Kevin. Kevin bonded Phil out. Yeah, it was Kevin. Kevin's a good guy like that. So,
well, he finally gave me the codes to the Force Shield out where he lives. So, the least I can do.
Let's move on. Is this an example of toxic masculinity? Do we all know what that is? When you say toxic masculinity, I'm gonna play a little video.
What is that? What is that? I think I kind of know what it is.
It's like when you you got a little boy and uncles, sons, they punch him in the chest to make him tougher or put him through some exorbitant physical kind of stuff, to make him tough. This idea you can't cry, got to put a big heavy load on these kids to make them into men. You know what I'm saying? And some people say that goes too far, and they've used the term toxic masculinity. So that's what it is in a nutshell.
I call that having 3 older brothers. That's all I call that.
3 older brothers, right? See, you know what? But I'm gonna play this video for you, and then you tell me if this is an example of toxic masculinity. Okay? Check this out.
One more. Because you're a dog. One more. Because you've been on the game for 8 hours. Good job. That's what I'm talking about, game booty. Knock that shit out. Yeah, nigga. Let's go. Slide down. Get ready to push this bitch up. Go. Knock this bitch up.
Sorry about the curse.
You ready?
Sorry about the curse.
Let's do it to your chest and up. Let's go. You ready? You better use everything you got. Hips down, hips up. Thrust. You ready? Let's do it. Down, up, thrust. Hips down, hips up.
Okay, he got some
hips
strength.
down, hips up. Gotta use that. Gotta use that momentum. Use that momentum. Let's go. Yeah. Throw that bitch up. Come on. Throw that bitch up. Use them feet. Use them toes. Throw that bitch up. Come on. 5. Let's go. 4. Let's go. You got it. Come on.
Watching it from the beginning.
Is that toxic? Is that toxic in your opinion?
Watching it from the beginning and like at the end when he's crying and showing that part first. But if you watch it from the beginning, and first of all, we don't know if that's his son. That's his son. He can do whatever he wants with his son. If he feels like that's what his son needs, he's allowed to do whatever his son needs. Because if so many times do you see fathers not having unsupervised visits or unsupervised abilities to raise their sons the correct way. You have people coming in telling them that they can't do this or you can't do that, or you have single dads only got weekend warrior visits, and then no matter what they do, it's undone when they get home. So there's a whole nother thing to this toxic masculinity that we could uncover. But this particular situation, looking at that video, that's his son. That's his son. If he feels like it, and you never know what was happening before then. His son might have been like, "Oh, Dad, I'm a beast. I'm a beast." You never. These 10-year-old boy look about 8, 9, 10 years old. They talk so much trash, and they can get away with it until somebody puts them in their place. Most of the time, it's your dad. Me, it was my dad and my brother. Like Kevin said, you had older siblings that in the friend group. That you never know what that kid was going through. He probably went to his daddy. You ain't nothing, daddy. What you throwing up them weights? I can do that. Talking all this trash, and your dad's like, "Hey, little pup, stay in your space. Stay in your space. No, daddy." And he's like, "All right, let me show you what it's like." And he starts pushing it, and he wants to quit and starts crying. My dad would have done the same thing. My dad would say, "Oh, you asked for this." Depending on the context, that was no part of toxic masculinity, in my opinion. That was a father or someone who cares about that son right there. He wasn't going to let that happen to that son. He was pushing him to the limits to make you want to cry. You ever played a basketball game or something? You want to win so bad, make you want to cry, make you want to do better. When you get beat, it makes you go back to do even better the next time. That's what he was instilling in that kid. It wasn't toxic masculinity.
Does Terrace have a point, or did he just legitimize abuse?
No, I think Terrace has a point. I mean, I think there's a line. Clearly, there's a line that you don't like. There's the Joe Jackson line, and then there's the good dad. Then there's the good dad line, right? Okay, like I think it's okay for parents to push their kids beyond the capacity that they think that they're capable of, right? We all suffer from that, whether you're an adult or a kid. You know, if you've ever lifted weights or if you've ever done anything, you reach a point where you're ready to tap out even at the slightest little bit of discomfort and pain, right? But if you got a personal trainer or a coach, there's always that person that pushes you to go one more beyond what you think you can do. And I don't think that there's anything toxic about that. In fact, I think it actually helps. You know, I saw one video, not like this, but a similar one with the father who was teaching his kid how to do that. You know how you jump on top of like a box or a stack or something and you keep adding it and it gets a little bit higher and you keep trying to get that vertical. And it was the same thing. The dad kept pushing his son. And at the end of it, the son jumped on top of the highest thing. And he was so proud of himself, the son was, that he broke down in tears. Like, you don't know, this could be a similar reaction there that the son is having, that is not abuse, that they're tears of actually being proud of accomplishing a goal that you didn't think that you could accomplish. And so I think, you know, sometimes you could look at that video, you could say, oh, because the little boy is crying, it's abuse. He could be crying because, you know, he's happy about his ability to reach a goal that he couldn't reach before. So I don't think there's anything. I think you see abuse now. Like if the little boy had put down the weight and the daddy had pulled out a belt and started whooping him, like, "Hey, you ain't get that. You needed to get like that."
That's basically did.
No, he did. He smacked his hand at the end. He smacked his hand at the end, like, "Good job." He was looking for approval from his father. That was approval from his father. That's what boys need, is approval, for the unsupervised approval from their fathers.
Let's get one thing straight. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, TNT.
No, I was just going to say, let's just get one thing straight. Like, just because you're a father don't automatically mean you know what's best all the time. Like, some people have no idea what the hell they doing. And so his intentions may be, you know, good, but if you're not a professional trainer or whatever, he could have been over stressing his muscles. I don't know how much those weigh, but those weights looked at really, really, you know, twice his size. He wasn't spotting him properly. Like if he did just have a moment where he collapsed, it looked like it could have just fell on his neck, his chest, or whatever. Like he backed away from him for a good while he was doing that full stretch of like 5 or 6 pull-ups or chin-ups, and he wasn't even right there. Like even a professional would just be right there just in case you collapse. He just left him there. And I agree, it would be more toxic if after, you know, all of that was done, he's crying and then he's like, "Oh, stop crying," and this and that. That would be like a man don't cry, whatever. Okay, that would be bad. Or just like like Kevin said, bring out the belt or whatever. But see there, where's he at? Like, where's he at? Like that could have collapsed that on him at any time.
This is impossible. It's impossible. Look, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Down the steps and saw
impossible.
My son, I would go off on him and knock him out with the dumbbell.
That's impossible. It's impossible.
You know why I ain't mad? You know why I ain't mad at TNT for saying that? Because that's a mother's reaction.
That's a mother's reaction.
That's a mother's reaction. It is. It absolutely is. It's a mother's reaction.
I'm a father. I feel the same way.
It's impossible. That bar, he was laying this way. If the bar fell, it would have went down this way.
If you watch that again, you guys aren't giving him. You acting like this guy doesn't have any judgment in terms. He's watching his son. And he knows when you could see the parts where he saw his son was struggling. He stepped up there and he was ready to jump in there if there was a point. But there was a point where he also used his judgment and he saw that his son had it. Yes, anything could happen at any point when you're lifting weights. But watching him interact with his son, he was letting him do it up until the point where he saw him struggling, and you see him
a
step
lot
forward.
of weight near his head and
But
neck.
look where he's at. Look where he's at. He's bent. He's lean anyway. He's inclined. That's called an incline. It's not going to fall on you. An incline would fall. It would collapse on him right there, and it would collapse, and it would fall all the way down. It's an incline.
Arms like twigs. It could have fell right at any point.
Yeah, it could have fell on him. It would have rolled right off of him. That bar would have rolled right off of him because he was doing an incline push-up. He's doing an incline. If he falls, it's going to roll to his foot. This guy, the dad knows it.
Down his body.
Unsupervised visits from your dad will create better boys. Because I know the mother of my children, if I was doing that to my kids, she would have walked in and be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I know that. But you know, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to be a little cocky. That's why my boys are successful, because we would have those moments.
I
have those moments with my boys.
I'm going to say something that's going to be controversial, and I know people going to light me up, but I'm going to say it anyway. Hey, if it had fell on him, he was going to be all right. How many times? He was going to be okay. How many times when you was a kid did you fall on something? Something fell on you while you was doing something, and you still alive. You all right. That's part of being a boy and growing into a man.
Growing from a boy to a man.
You gonna get knocked around a bit. I'ma just say this. I feel like that we have gotten to a point, particularly with young boys, where we coddle them too much. We coddle them too much. And I'm telling you, because I see and I deal with a lot of these young brothers today, and I'm gonna say it, they don't have the mental toughness and capacity that we had when we were coming up because of precisely this type of stuff. We wrapping them in bubble wrapping. Oh, they can't do this.
Not my baby.
Man, get off that, man. We went through all that stuff, and we here, and we just fine. And it wasn't never called toxic masculinity. There's some stuff that they say that's woke that I gotta agree with, and terms like toxic masculinity and that kind of stuff, that's straight up woke BS.
You're anti-woke now, Kevin?
No, I mean, I'm just saying some of the stuff.
Whoa, what a change!
Right,
Whoa,
now he's anti-woke.
Oh my God!
Some of these terms that we come up with, toxic masculinity. Come on, man, that's ridiculous.
So you don't think that toxic masculinity is a real thing?
No, I don't. I think it's a made-up term that somebody came up with so they get a bag.
Some woke stuff. Okay.
They could write, so that they could sell.
You got a lot of men that have a lot of issues. You know, they're abusive. They have real anger issues, and it's all because their mother or daddy didn't hug them enough, didn't tell them they love them enough. It was always bang, 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 and just aggressiveness, and you can't cry, and so a lot of pent-up aggression turns into something that is toxic later in life. And we see that in many, many forms. And to me, toxic masculinity isn't just like, what we see in that video, but it's also this degrading of women and making it seem like, you can just run through women, run trains, and this one, they're not nothing. And so, and it's a lot of that, those Tate brothers, you know what I'm saying?
Oh.
And they're promoting that on YouTube, but they just got arrested and stuff. But how long they have been able to just like fly and float, and they have whole sex rings and trafficking and and the way they talk about women and everything else, and it's just like, oh, this is the bro culture. That's to me, it's toxic. And so there is definition that I think that does tie to, and that is a problem in our society. But as it relates to this little video right here, like my point was just saying that sometimes dads, they may have the best intentions, but somebody might have taught them and it was wrong, and you just end up doing the same thing over and over. It doesn't always mean what you're doing is right. You may have the best intentions, but you may be going about it not in the safest way. I hate to say this, like one time my son's father was teaching him craps, or like how to like shoot dice. And I'm just like,
I learned how to shoot dice from my daddy.
Hey,
my dad learned how to shoot dice from my dad.
Hey,
come on, TNT. This could be a teaching moment. This could be a teaching moment. You cannot take it takes a father and a loving father and a loving mother. And when you start, it takes a loving father and a loving mother. My loving father would take me to shoot craps with him at the bootlegger's house and then drop me off at church with my mother on the same block. No. And we ain't going for that. We need more fathers. There's nothing toxic. Hold on. There's nothing toxic about a father spending time with their sons. That's where we get all messed up. We put toxic masculinity on clips when a father's spending time with his son. I don't care what the father's doing with his son, as long as he's a loving father, he's not abusing them. He's not abusing them. And and he's not being abusive. And he's teaching. In some people's culture, if my daddy didn't teach me how to shoot craps, I would have got ate up on the block. I would have got ate up on the block if my daddy didn't teach me how to shoot craps. I'm glad my daddy told me to show me how to shoot craps.
Let me ask you this. TNT.
I think Kevin's trying to get something in. I mean, Phil.
If he go to Vegas and hit a lick rolling them bones, mom ain't gonna get nothing. That's all I'm gonna. I just want to know. Mom ain't gonna get nothing.
This is a teachable moment. I think it's a teachable moment, TNT. I love you, and I know that you're raising great sons. I know that you are raising great sons because you're a phenomenal mother. But a lot of times people take these clips like this and name it and clip it with toxic masculinity when that's not what it is. Toxic masculinity is the things that you talked about earlier. The Tate brothers, all the MGTOW movement, the people telling men to go their own way. What this man was spending time with his kids cannot be lumped in those same categories, and I'll fight that to the day I die, because I had to fight that just to have influence on my kid's life, because it was the same thing. And I respect the mothers. I respect the moms for coming in there with that gentle stuff, because that's what my mom did. And hold on. Let me finish it. Because my mom would tell my dad he was a fool for taking me to shoot craps every time I get to church, and she'd be like, "Where'd you just come from?" "Oh, we were at the bootlegger. My dad, he would drink. He only had 2 beers, but yeah, he was shooting dice. They started acting crazy and about to start stabbing, so he took me out of there and brought me to church." And you don't think my mom was mad about that? But I had to experience that. We have to let these kids go through this stuff.
Okay, my son don't need to know anything about no street craps or anything like that. That's not a necessity that is going to advance him in life. For me, that was a lesson that his dad could have kept him. So there's so many other things that he could show him, which he had, like how to play basketball and just other things that are like, going to advance him, and nothing that can lead him to jail or prison. I don't want anything like that. And so to me, that was just a missed opportunity, but it was just something that he knows how to do. He, like you said, he having a moment with his son, but it's just like, you could have saved that for me. And so just because, you're a dad doesn't mean you're always installing in your son the proper and correct things. And a lot of dads do that. It's just like, if your dad was a gangster, thug in the street, I'm sure they teach, and they thinking they teaching their son the streets and the hustle and everything else, and they think they're doing the right thing. But no, you know what I'm saying? Because all you're doing is creating a generation that's just going to continue the same path that's going to lead to the same self-destruction. So to me, there's so many other things that a father can do. And as long as he's not, he's still emotionally there for his son, and which I did see in the clip, like he was congratulating him, hugging him and holding him and everything else, even though he was real tough on him. He was really, really tough. I personally did not like the way he stepped away from him and I don't know how big those weights was. I don't know if it had to be that big, but at the same time, I was just concerned and worried that if at any point when it looked like he was struggling, that if it collapsed, he wasn't right there. He wasn't right there for it. But that's just opinions or whatnot. I don't feel like that's like a total example of total masculinity, because like I said, it's so many variables to what that is and what that looked like. And if that's the type of father, we got to kind of see throughout his whole process of like all the things he doing and what that boy grow up to be. You know what I'm saying? Is he someone that has pent up aggression? Is he violent towards women? Is he violent towards, people in general? Like that's the type of things that, you warn against, because of certain behaviors and certain actions that people do, and they install in young people to think like this is what a man is, that just end up being totally wrong and making a person in society that is aggressive and violent.
So here's what I would say, and again, I don't have any malice or anything against TNT, because like I said, that is a woman, a mother's perspective, right? And one thing that I will always say is that a woman can never teach a boy how to be a man. I don't care what they say. A woman can do a good job, but a woman can't tell a man how to be a man precisely because y'all perspective is different. And that's not a diss. It's just the reality. Men
Is that
and
gender
women,
bias?
no, it's the truth. Men and women think differently. I don't know that anybody would agree with that. That should be a universal understanding that men and women don't think the same. Women would acknowledge that.
Have you ever heard this phrase?
That.
Have you ever heard the phrase that little boys grow up to be the man that their mothers make them to be?
Yes.
Ever heard that phrase? Yeah. So I think when people say we know that, no woman can teach a little boy how to be a man, but that's not really the point, though.
Yeah, it is the point, because women like men. So when women raise men to be the man that they want them to be, that's why you got so many women out here that don't like the men. That's why you got so many women out here that got problems. You got so many women out here that got problems with men because these men are being raised by women. And the mamas aren't raising these boys to be men the kind of men that women are going to be attracted to. Women want a man to know that he going to handle his business, that they going to be protected, that they're going to be tough. They don't want no little sheepish, keep me in bubble wrap, I'm scared this weight bench gonna fall on my neck type.
You are exaggerating.
No woman want no man like that, especially no sister. No sister don't want no soft, I'm scared this weight gonna fall on my neck type brother. They don't. Them the kind of brothers y'all walk past and go exactly after the type of brothers that you say you don't want y'all sons to grow up to be like. I'm just saying, you gotta let men raise their sons. There's nothing wrong with it. First of all,
you gotta let fathers abuse their children.
Let's give that brother credit. Let's give that brother credit for being there with his son, instead of talking about
credit for doing what he's supposed to do.
Danger. Let's talk about him being there with
credit points for doing what you're supposed to do.
That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to raise his kid.
Okay, but wait a minute. That is what he's supposed to do. But let's don't sit here and act like there are a whole lot of absentee fathers who ain't doing what they supposed to be doing with their sons. Because that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why we got the crime problems and a lot of the other problems that we got is because you got a lot of absentee parents who are not looking after their kids. Because what's the first thing we say when kids get in trouble? Where the parents at? Why the parents?
They got grandpas.
TNT, I love you. I love you. That mentality is not working. That mentality doesn't work. That mentality don't work. That's a scapegoat. That's a scapegoat.
And what I do know, any man that don't have a good relationship with his mother usually are violent toward women. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not a mama's boy, if you're not someone that, if you speak ill of your own mother, then why would you respect anyone? That has always fallen true in every situation I've ever seen in life, personally. So to me, like, a mother's role in a son's life is just as important as a father. And if it's in scenarios, because everything's happen in life, you can't always grow up with both parents, and a parent has to be both mother and father. They do the best they can, but it takes a village. And when you have a village, a support system, networks, uncles, cousins, sisters, brothers, grandfathers, and different ones that come in and mentors, coaches, different ones that come in and pour love into your child, you don't have to lose. It doesn't have to be a scenario where this young person is a failed case just because he don't have both parents in the house. Sometimes having both parents and they're in a domestic violence situation is more toxic than if they were just separated. So it's just
that's true.
Wait a minute. This is why we're in the situation we're in now.
Your son how to be violent toward.
Can we agree though? Let's just say this. Can we just agree? A nuclear family with a mother and a father in the household is the best case scenario for a child or for children?
No.
Can we agree?
Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God.
No. We can't.
There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. You got it.
I want to share.
That's why we're in the situation we're in right now. Because of that mentality, the Democratic mentality.
I'll explain in a second, but I want to hear from Phil. Phil was going to say something. Go ahead, Phil.
Oh yeah, Phil.
Well, first, Terrace. Now I now understand what has made you the man you are today. And
You're
I mean,
right.
between the learning the craps from your father and church from your mom, that explains everything. And I mean that as a compliment.
I know.
Okay?
I take it. I take that.
And Terrace, on the one hand, I agree that you need a little context around this. You don't know how what led to this kid, being in that situation, or how his father treated him, and whether he affirmed him in different ways, things like that. But at the same time, just because, yeah, you're right, a father should, I mean, we shouldn't just assume that a father can do anything he wants to a kid, because we all know about abusive situations. Now, I will just say, from a personal standpoint, I wish my father had been more like this guy in the video, because I frankly grew up and I really wasn't tough enough. I don't just mean physically, I mean mentally and everything else. I really wasn't. And I wish he had been a little more like that. Now, I, on the other hand, probably reacted by being a little bit too much in that direction, maybe with my kids. I mean, you saw that guy. You guys got a big yuck out of me doing the judo thing with that guy. Well, I forced my kids 10 when they were little kids to start working with that guy and another guy, and they didn't always like it. And I forced him to. I made him do it. And I remember one time I'm in this gym and Henry is sparring with a woman, some girl who's like 2 feet taller than him, is a black belt, and she's just whacking the crap out of him. Okay. And he's crying. I never went near him. I didn't walk up to, I didn't say anything, as I just felt that, like you guys said, he needs to be a man. And there was one time, if I can say, that I got into this, oh, my then wife, who you've met, was so upset because Henry got bullied by some kid. And she says, we got to talk to the principal. I said, no, we don't. He's taking self-defense. Let him take care of himself. Oh, man, she went ballistic. But I'll tell you something, without giving all the details, about 2 or 3 years ago, Henry came on a situation where someone, a woman close to him, was being attacked. Okay. And she could have been badly hurt. Henry jumped in. He did whatever the hell you do when you squeeze the neck and the guy, passed out, and he defended her. And I think that was real. I was proud of him for that. And I also think, and Tara said this too, that when you train kids in that way, it also helps make them mentally tough, not just physically tough. And so, like I said, and the neat thing about both my kids, my daughter and my son, I forced them for years. Now, whenever they're back in town, they want to jump in the gym and start doing the kicks and punches. So I think that's kind of neat.
It's been a minute, about 15, 20 minutes, Carolyn. It was the storm. I think the storm kicked us off Facebook. I had to do what I could do while, on the air here, but we're back. So that's interesting. So you basically backed up Kevin's point. And I mean, I see it. I'm a man. I understand it. You got to make them tough. I get it. I'm just wanting to know what that line is of toxic, going too far in terms of pushing your kid. But I agree. You got to push all your kids. I made my daughter do stuff that she didn't want to do, but it was hard. You know what I'm saying? And I knew she would get something out of it down the road. She didn't want to do it. So you got to push your kids past their limits a little bit, because some kids, I think most kids, they don't know what their limit is. They have no idea what they're capable of until they get pushed to actually do it. So I get it. I understand.
And I think one of the dangers, especially for, people who are more upwardly mobile, let's just say, kids who are being raised under easier circumstances, I think have life a little bit easier. And you got to be careful with those kind of kids, to where you don't make life too easy for them, that they don't know how to deal with struggles and challenges when they're confronted with it. Right. And I'm telling you, I spend a lot of, so first of all, I'm a youth minister. I do a lot of voluntary work in schools, counseling and talking to kids. And so when I speak on this, I don't necessarily speak on it from just like out of the gut. Like, this is a lot of stuff that I get back and hear from kids. And one thing that I'll say that TNT is right on, particularly when it comes to young men. Now, I don't agree with the whole telling young men not to cry, right? Because one of the things that I do think is a negative byproduct of that is exactly what she says. And you see this in a lot of young males, is that a lot of times the only way that they know how to express their emotions, which is the secondary emotion of anger, right? So if I say something that embarrasses you or hurts your feelings, I'm not going to say to you that I'm embarrassed or it hurt my feelings, or I'm definitely not going to express that in terms of tears in front of you. My immediate reaction to that is I'm going to get mad, and the follow-up to that is I got to do something to you, right? And so I think what we don't do a good enough job, particularly with our young men at a young age, is helping them learn how to cycle through and process, the initial emotions that they're feeling. Like, it's okay if somebody say something to hurt your feelings, like, that's okay to feel that, right? Because the thing that happens a lot of times is that does happen. People do say things that embarrass you, but if your immediate reaction is anger and violence to that, you're not really processing that, those emotions in healthy and proper ways. And I think when you suppress that in young men at an early age by telling them that they're not allowed to feel emotions, that is what you create. So I do agree with that point of what TNT is saying, is that you don't need to do that. But being able to tell your kids, like, hey, you can feel that, but you got to learn how to push through, right? Like, that's the other part. Like, the articulation of that is sometimes something that fathers don't do very well and can get better at, teaching their sons how to feel what they feel, but push beyond it, which is where I think what you're trying to do, but it don't always come out the right way. It's not always expressed and articulated in the best way.
I want to answer that question I just saw.
People in the chat.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
one in the chat, somebody said they raise mama's boys, but then they don't want to. But then if you don't see what's that, these women will raise a mama's boy, but when you ask them if they date a son like they raise and they're honest, they'll say no. But lots of times they don't have to worry about dating a son that they raise, because the son that they raise are generally going to be still stuck at home with them up underneath them anyway, because they have a failure to launch, because they don't go nowhere. They stay right up underneath their mama because they can't get out. Then you got some man because they can't take correction from a man. You, like Kevin said, when I talk to these kids, I'm like, pull your pants up. What? I was like, and then afterwards, I'm like, have you ever been talked to the way that I just talked to you? They're like, no, sir, Mr. Horton, I never have. I'm like, well, you better get used to it, because this is the way sometimes you need to be talked to stern sometimes. Boys,
why?
Stern talk.
When they need it.
When they need stern talk from men who love them.
When they need it, yes. When they need it.
And then when they come to you on that, when they're crying, oh yeah, take them in. Oh yeah, I understand your processing your emotions. Now take that crybaby stuff over to your mama, because we ain't going for it over here.
There's a line. It depends on the scenario. Like when my son is competing,
you missed it. You missed what I said, Nathan. But it's some truth.
No, I'm not saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm saying for me, when my son is competing, and we're in that competitive field, I'm a little bit more like leaning into it than any other time, because it's just me and him. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to talk stern to him until I need to talk stern to him. Other than that, they need love and bubble gum and bubbles. They need to feel like they're in a place where they can be heard.
That's a given.
That's what they need.
That's a given. But when you see your son
what's so funny? That's what children need.
That's a given. But in this particular clip, when we see this young man lifting grown man weights.
Yes.
And then dapping his daddy up after he's crying.
What else is he going to do? He had no choice.
If you've seen your kid work hard for something and achieve it, and see the process that it takes, and to see the hard work and tears, I felt that man.
Do you guys know
you're speaking from a lot of experience too, Terrace.
I know, I'm speaking from experience. So why not take somebody's experience that's experienced something like that, instead of looking at a video and be like, oh, that's not going to work. That's toxic masculinity. That's good parenting.
Okay.
The look on that boy's face looked like he wanted to punch his daddy.
That's good. But you know what he did? Instead of punching his daddy, instead of punching his daddy, he smacked his daddy's hand.
He smacked it in school like that.
No, he smacked his daddy's hand and then his daddy, or kissed it. He smacked his daddy's hand and kissed it. That was a very beautiful moment.
But he was
and
mad.
if he would have punched his daddy, if he would have punched his daddy, he would have been prepared to get a punch back.
But he wasn't going because it's his daddy. But he was visibly mad because he was forced to do that.
That wasn't
And
mad.
That
wasn't mad. TNT, that wasn't mad.
Because that is his daddy. But that same pent up aggression, he can take that if he got a little brother, a little sister, or if he go to school and somebody just sit up there and do something that he doesn't like, it is lights out for him. That's what it looks like would happen. But that's just my opinion. You got to be careful with all of that. But what I did want to say is 2 stories. One, I remember one time I remember I had a relative, little baby, it was a little boy, and he was running. He had to be like he just learned how to walk. So he had to be running on the concrete at the park, and he fell. Now, of course, all the women, our immediate reaction was to swoop him up and get him. And the dad said, leave him alone. And the baby just looked around, saw nobody was coming, and got up and just walked away. And that was the lesson for me. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Because, a lot of times we swoop them up too quick. Yeah. And then any little
absolutely.
I just what Kevin was saying first, they got to experience a little bit of pain, and you can't coddle them to the point. So I get that, and I learned that lesson from a younger, father parent that just said for his son, you know what I'm saying? He knew what he was doing. He knew what that meant, and I got it. Okay. Secondly, people like my brother, he's my younger brother, but he is literally a bodybuilder, and another cousin of mine, he's like a personal trainer, both very fit. All they do is talk about working out, and they work my son out to the T. They'll come. My son can do a full day of work and just come on, let's go. And it's just routine. He's scared to see him sometimes, but I know that's necessary and that's needed. You know what I'm saying? Even my brother at times would take my daughter. She's older and a mother now, but when she was younger, he was teaching her. We had this mannequin punching thing. It looked like a full person. And one time I went down in the basement and I saw my daughter punching this thing like the Russian guy on Rocky. You know what I'm saying? And I was just I'm walking down the steps and seeing her go in doom. And I know my brother showed her how to hit like that. And I just walked back and I'm just thinking to myself oh my God, she probably punch a hole in me. But you know what I'm saying? But as a parent, you don't want to show no fear with your kids. But I was just okay, but my point is we have people in our circle that is playing those roles, even if that person isn't there, that is showing how to be a man, how to protect yourself, self-defense and everything else. That village for a lot of people is there. And so there's no need for a person like myself or anybody to feel like I'm lacking anything, because I think my children are well-rounded. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are well-rounded, have positive influences and role models in their lives. And it doesn't always have to, be to the extent where, you're causing young people to be developed in a way that's angry. You know what I'm saying? What's more important is wisdom. I want men to enforce wisdom into younger people, to make wise choices, the type of decisions that is going to further you in life and not complicate your life or put you 6 feet deep or in prison and make you lose your freedom. And so, anybody that's coming into the fold that is, being a negative to a child and not bringing positive, reinforcement, that is toxic. That doesn't help. And, I don't see any value to that. But wisdom, from anybody is a good thing.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between the types of negative teachings that you're talking about, TNT, versus what we're talking about is trying to instill strength and toughness in men. Because here's what I would say. If and again, this just goes back to allowing men or fathers to do what they do to create that male strength in men. Because if mamas are gonna coddle their sons, if that's the way you're gonna raise your sons, right? Don't do that, don't do this, don't be too tough on them, don't be too stern. If that's the way you're gonna raise your sons, then raise your daughters to be able to take care of that man the same way you taking care of him. Because when he get out there, he gonna need to find a woman that's gonna baby him as much as the mama babied him, right? Because so raise your daughters to baby your men the same way that the mamas baby they babies, they male babies. Because what these men are gonna do that's been babied by mama, they gonna get out there and they gonna find that the way we're raising our modern young women today, they ain't trying to do that. Because you know what I found out when I got my wife?
They don't clean. They
The
don't
first
do
thing my
nothing.
wife told me was, I ain't doing what your mama do. And that's mostly what women tell men when they get out there. I ain't gonna do what your mama did for you. Okay. So this is why I'm trying to tell you why you need to let men raise their sons so that they can be the type of men that women are gonna want when they get out of there. Because when you calling these men and mama, brother 25 years old, you still calling him baby. You know what I'm saying? That ain't going that type
My son's
of
always gonna be my baby.
that type of stuff
can
don't
be-
fly.
He can be 100 and I'm 150. He gonna be my baby. That's just how I look at it.
Y'all know it's true. That's why I don't know why women be tripping when you have these conversations, because y'all know what type of men y'all tired of. Y'all, I know what type, because y'all
That's a
talk,
separate
y'all
conversation,
dog
though.
the same type of men that you be talking. I can't find no good man. You be dogging these men.
That's
Who
a
you
separate
think
conversation,
raised
though.
them?
There's a separate conversation. I resist the
raised
idea.
these men?
I resist the idea that you got to be toxic to your child,
Nathan,
your
you and
son,
TNT
in
answer
order
my
for them to grow up
question.
and be a man.
Who raised these men? Who raised these
resist the
men that all these
temptation
women
to
got
believe
problems?
that you can beat your kid up to make him be a man. You don't
I
have
didn't
to do
say
that.
beat them up. You never
You don't have
heard
to
me
beat
say
your
that.
kid up for him to be a man.
You never heard me say beat them up one time.
That's what you're implying, basically. You got
No,
to be tough.
that's
You
not
got
what
to
I'm implying.
you got to make them
We're
push the
talking
weights.
about a father who was how did we go from a father who's letting his kid lift weights to beating him up? Like, I already said that crosses the Joe Jackson line. This is what y'all do on this show. This is the problem in society, right? We go too far the other way. I'm willing to concede what TNT said, that maybe there were some unhealthy ways of raising kids in the past that don't work today. But what we do in modern times is we go too far in the other direction, right? There is probably some correction, but what happens is people go too far, like I said, with this toxic masculinity. And you can talk about anything that's become a topic that we talk about today. The reason why you get so much pushback is because people take things too far in the opposite direction. Most people can agree, hey, maybe there's some need for correction. Maybe this wasn't always the best way to do it. Maybe we need to dial that back. But people don't know where to stop there. They take it to the extreme in the other direction, like, oh, you can't talk to kids at all, or you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't be doing that. It's ridiculous. And that is the problem that we have in our country right now.
It was toxic. And I'm going to say it again. You do not have to beat your child up and be super stern with them all the time to teach them to be a man. The idea that toughness and sternness is what makes you a man is where it's all wrong. That's what's got us to where we are today. Everybody run around thinking you got to be hard all the time. That's not what makes you a man. And that's what I'm saying. That is all toxic. You do not have to punch him in the chest and make him, train him like he's a Buddhist monk or something like that. You don't got to do all that. All you got to do is show it. What you got to do is do what you telling him to do. That's what it means to be a man. Whatever you telling him to do, how he live his life, you do it. And he'll watch you and then he'll do it. If you want him to learn how to treat a woman right, treat his mama right. The women you date, treat them right. And then he'll learn. But all this, you got to do all this, that's garbage. That's why all these kids all messed up right now, run around thinking they hard. I'm the hardest. Okay. You ain't harder than no bullet. So that's the problem. We keep trying to teach these kids the wrong way. These boys need love, support, understanding, and they need a man to guide them when you need them. But he don't need you to be Joe Jackson all the time and yelling at them and cussing at them and calling them the N-word. You ain't got to do none of that. You ain't got to do none of that. In fact, you're going to turn them into a monster doing all that. That's what these boys need. These little black boys need love, support, understanding. You made a mistake, okay, give you some latitude. But when I need to jump in there and I need to let you know because you're going too far, then I'll be there. That's what they need.
Sister Bridge speaks.
They need parents that's not on drugs.
Sister Bridge speaks your mom.
They need parents that's not on drugs, drugged out, but you trying to tell me, but you on drugs.
Sister
You
Bridge
trying to tell me about finances,
your
but look at your finances. You trying to tell me how to keep my room clean, but your bedroom is nasty. That's what they need. Do it. Do what you telling them to do. You do it, and they'll watch you. You're talking about going to church. You don't never go to church, but you want him to be in the books, but you never go to church. You telling him to be a Christian, but you don't live like a Christian. And then you wonder why they don't live like Christians, because they're looking at you. That's the hardest part. But that's just my thoughts.
And instead, we emphasize the need to be aggressive, and that turns into this ego situation, which right now.
Why is toughness associated with aggressiveness? Why does that's what I don't understand? Why is this is part of
the because people trying to show who the hardest. Everybody got to be the hardest thing out here. And so it's not even, no one can have a conversation. No one can apologize. No one can talk things out. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I got to get you. You know, it's not even throw hands and that anymore. Now it's just pull out a gun and take your life.
Y'all are talking about something entirely different than what I'm talking about.
Of toxic.
This is the problem. This is the problem with the language and the definition and what Nathan and TNT are doing. They're taking strength and toughness and they're using the most negative connotation of that possible. Y'all are using the most negative connotation of strength and toughness that you can possibly use.
That's what it leads
that's what I'm saying about taking it too far the other way. Like when you talk about trying to make your kids mentally tough, to be strong, both physically and mentally, that doesn't mean that you're teaching them that they got to be the baddest so-and-so on the block or that you got to be ultra aggressive. Why do those two things have to go together in your minds? Why do those two things have to go together?
It just depends on who's doing the teaching. Because if it's done in love, like someone like my brother, like it's always in love. My son know that my brother loves him and he's not telling him anything to harm or hurt him. And all he wants is the best, of him. But in some respect, it's just some people that feel like they need to build their boys into men to be tough, rough, hard. And that's more the mindset instead of just like building well-rounded men, because someone taught them that way and that's what they feel.
No, you know why it's that way, TNT? Because we live in a dangerous world. When you think, listen, let me finish. From the beginning of the society, this is what women don't understand because y'all have lived under the protection of men primarily. In the beginning, men look, I'm just saying this. Men are the protectors. If somebody if a dude roll up on you in the street and you with a man, TNT, do you expect that man? Do you expect that man to step up and protect you?
I'll protect him.
No, you're gonna step in front of the gun, the bullet, or whatever in front of your man.
The one that's packing.
Okay, well that might be you, but I know most women that I know, if they with a brother, they're gonna expect that brother to step up, defend them, and take the bullet. And it's been that way from the beginning. It's been that way from the beginning. So men have always had to take on a role of strength and protecting because that is what women expect, right? By and large. So you have to have a degree of strength and toughness because this world ain't no joke.
It isn't.
This world ain't Cincinnati ain't no joke. You ain't gonna just be walking down the street. Oh, no. You ain't gonna just be walking down the street and be with no dude that you feel like that you worried about whether he gonna protect you or defend you or whatever. Look, y'all gonna try to act like what I'm saying ain't true and that's cool because we on the podcast. People trying to say was PC. People trying to say
everybody packing.
People trying to say was PC.
Ain't
but I know
girls looking for nobody to protect them. Women know firsthand how vulnerable they are and how
that's cool then, cause so brothers, y'all heard that these women got it. They packing. So the next time somebody roll up on your woman, you can fall back.
You got it.
You can fall back and let her handle it.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a connection between those two, but I get it. We can always agree to disagree. I got one little clip for you real quick. I know Phil's about to get off,
Can I
Maybe
say
even
one
stay on.
thing real quick? I got
Sure.
to jump off.
Sure.
Just two anecdotes that came to mind as I was listening to you guys. And you know the expression I like tough love, or there was a big book in Christian circles years ago. It's a pretty good book by a guy named, he went off the deep end, but a guy named James Dobson called Love Must Be Tough. It was pretty good. And there's two things that come to mind when I think about this. Do you guys know how Muhammad Ali became a boxer? Do you know?
Can't remember.
Well,
No.
he was Cassius Clay. He was just a little kid, and he goes up to, and some kid took his bike, stole his bike, and he goes up to this cop, and he's crying. He goes, "This guy took my bike," and this cop, his first name is Joe, I forget the rest, takes him into a gym, says, "You need to learn how to take care of yourself," and that's how he became a boxer. And one scene that just comes to my mind. It's one of the most touching scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Do you ever see that movie Ray, about Ray Charles? Anybody ever see that? It's a scene where he's going blind, and he's like 4 or 5 years old or something like that. And he's in the room with his mother, and he's trying to find his way around, and his mother isn't doing anything. She's not, she's just sitting there because she recognizes that this kid's going to have to be able to survive. And so he just sits there. She just sits there, and you know, to me that was so touching in a way. It was because she did what was so hard. You can imagine how much she wanted to help him, but she knew what was best for him. So anyway, I got to run. Great being with you guys.
What she did, hey, thanks, Phil. What she didn't do is throw 30 pounds on top of the kid on the incline and tell him to bench press it 10 times. She didn't do that.
Actually, she did. Have you seen the movie? She did.
I don't recall it. I've seen it, but I don't recall that. All right, man. Hey, I'm glad you're back, Phil.
All right.
Get there with you soon, bro.
Take it easy, Phil.
That's Phil checking in and out. Well, that's all I got. I'm taking 2 hours of your time. I don't want to hold people too much. People were saying that it was raining. It started flooding again in different parts of the city. I was listening to Lincoln Ware today, and I think he was reciting some news articles, and he said that people were blaming the mayor on some levels because he was out of town on Friday.
I wasn't gonna bring that up.
Here we go again.
About that, but I wasn't gonna bring it up. I was like,
here we go again. So now the mayor is responsible for the flooding because listen, I won't say it again. For him to be a good mayor, he has to leave town. He has to represent Cincinnati across the nation and maybe even internationally. He's not going to be here all the time. And as much as I want him to be here in the city for my birthday, I'm sure he's got stuff going on. So I don't have but that's what people are saying. Like he's to blame because some kind of valve was supposed to close. It didn't close, led to the flooding. People are saying we haven't had flooding like this, like ever in humankind or something like that. Like super rare to get this kind. I think it's all connected to, I think, unfortunately, climate change. But you know, a lot of people don't believe in that. Darnell, he can control the weather. Now, that's right. AvTab must control the weather too.
Hey, Nathan, I will say it's ridiculous to blame him for what happened, but I will have to say it seemed like the gods is conspiring against him, man, because it seemed like every time something happened, that brother is gone. He's gone somewhere. And it was just so funny when I saw that he was out of town for that. I was like, of course he was. You know, that's how the deck is stacking up against him. It's like he just need to go ahead and release his whole calendar so we know when something gonna happen in the city. Cause he's going.
I mean, you would think that, like, okay, the city has ran amok. Like, what's the point of having a vice mayor? You know, like the people that needed to be there, the first responders, emergency was there and handled the situation. And that's like a unforeseen, you know, act that happened that, you know, no one could predict. But good leadership, what good leadership does is, you know, see a problem and actively find a solution. And so that's what he does very, very well. And if there is a issue, you know, that ongoing issue with particular areas in our city, and some of these portions aren't even in the city, it's in outside the city. I was near Coleraine and it was like a flash flood, you know, on Coleraine as well. So I mean, we are in a city that is like a lot of hills and valleys, and so just the makeup of it is causing a lot of issues too. But we have to figure out as a city how we can rectify that issue, and most importantly, the people that were stuck in the rain were they able to get out safe and get home and all of those things. That's what really, really matters. Nobody died, nobody was hurt. Maybe some cars got, messed up, but at the end of the day, if everybody was able to get home safe, I think that was more paramount. But I remember back in my day, the enemies used to be political enemies, used to be people like Joe Dieters and Simon Lease and stuff. It is amazing to me that, people find big fault and like this is the destruction of the community. Someone like Aftab that goes out of his way to, emphasize the collaborative agreement, emphasize the importance of diversity in our communities, really try to be, a good advocate for it. And people still find ways to just like knock him down. I just saw him on the Daily Show. And he was really just trying to promote the city and just emphasize how beautiful it is, even though the host on there was clowning him with his mother in the audience and stuff like. But
I've got that clip actually.
Yeah, it was funny, but I love the Daily Show, but it's just like, but Aftab still found a way to just like, stay professional, but be funny and everything else. And so it's just unfortunate.
Aftab is gonna Aftab. Here's a little bit of it. Check it out.
I've been there many times. We talk about I do shows all the time. I'm not even saying this. Surprisingly great city.
Thank you.
Surprisingly, I get expected.
I'm going to ignore the surprisingly, and I'm just going to focus on
sure,
great
focus
city.
on the positive.
Yeah.
I went there. I was at low expectations. I was like, this is going to be bullshit. And then I went there. And then I walked. It was beautiful. It was clean. Yeah. People were super friendly. It was clean.
What's he trying to say?
Like, what's going on here? Who's in charge of this?
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, he's in charge of it. And I think he's doing a fine job. He needs to work on that. It's some gaps. I mean, the stuff that came out from Campaign Zero, again, as I suspected, looks like they were on point. Just absorb it, get better. These conversations like we had with Kristen earlier, it sounds like there might be some gaps in terms of the city's relationship with businesses once they get started, maybe small businesses. It's just an opportunity for growth. That's how I look at it. Rather than always just point a finger, how do we get better? How do we close that gap?
So no politician's on top of everything, and to blame Aftab for the flooding, how is he supposed to stop that much rain falling, in such a short time span? You're going to get flooding no matter what, no matter what's going on when you have that kind of natural weather event. I think what may be fair criticism is how quickly he's responding to what happened in terms of getting on the phone with the governor, trying to get things developed or declared an emergency, that sort of thing. That to me is more fair game for criticism if you want to try to criticize than to criticize him for the fact that it rained and the city flooded. Like there's not much that he could have done about that. But I want to ask y'all this while we talking about Aftab. He was taking a little heat during Black Tech Week for some of the comments that he apparently made during that event. I think what he called Cincinnati a black city or something like that. He called Cincinnati a black city, and then I also heard there were some other, not from him, but some other speakers who might have had used some objectionable language that people had an issue with. But I don't know what did y'all think about that?
I like it. I like him saying that. I mean, from outside looking in and looking over at Cincinnati, I consider you guys a black city. There's 50. It's like close to 50% black and white population. I mean, you have a black majority city council. You have a non-white mayor. You have all these things that, from the outside looking in, you guys don't understand. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see, and especially if it's running good. So it's him saying it's a black city, double down, and that gives the ability to, when Bernie Moreno starts talking his crap and they start drawing lines in the sand where they're doing their thing, there's clear, definitive lines as if Aftab Pirabal is the mayor, that this is a protected city. This is a black city. They're not going to come in there with any of that stuff that they can pull in any of the other cities, because it's a black city. And with black city stuff comes stuff like last year, whenever they tried to do that Cincinnati Brawl stuff, it comes with backlash from the black community when they try to pull not when they try to pull stuff that would work in other cities and black cities. I think what Avtab said was awesome. Keep that talk up.
So I think some of the criticism of him saying that was, I think the critics have said that it was pandering. They was like, well, if Cincinnati is a black city, why aren't you doing more for black people? Why if Cincinnati is such a black city, why do black people in the city struggle? So I think there were some people who was like, well, you saying this, but Cincinnati has never really been treated like a black city in any positive way. So I think that's, at least from some of the criticism that I've seen, that was why people didn't necessarily take it in the most positive light.
I like for some of those people to go to Alabama, go live in Mississippi and see how black people live in there. You know what I mean? Black people here have a voice, and especially under this administration, these council, just like Terrence was saying, like you have to think about our county commission. You know, it's a lot of black leadership within Cincinnati. You know what I'm saying? And you know, they're doing everything they can, and they definitely take in consideration of the black community. When we come to the table, NAACP, Urban League, they're front and center in a lot of, you know, actions. You know, our local radio station has a very big voice. We have a voice in the city, and we, you know, we're not being ignored, at least in this administration. It's been other administrations where they've been against the labor union. They've been against, you know, organizations, civil rights organizations. I know firsthand they fight against us. And this is a administration that definitely emphasized, want to work with us. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But it isn't because of a lack of effort. It's never been that. And so, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, the people with the biggest mouths, you know, saying, try to control the narrative, but people that know better, you know, they know. And it pretty much shows in the way they voted, because this past election, everybody got back in without anyone being touched. So if it was really, really an issue, the mayor would have been knocked out. A lot of the people on city council would have been knocked out. So these are just, you know, a lot of white noise, people outside the city and people with very, very big mouths, and on social media, they run it. But at the end of the day, the people that can make the decisions about their city, they like the leadership that they have.
So
let me ask one more time. Let me the black city.
Let me ask this real quick. Let me ask this for TNT real quick while we on the subject, because she said a lot there. So is it a fair question to ask? Because this is one of the questions that I've often thought about for Cincinnati, which is what 47% black, has had its fair share of leadership, whether it's black mayors, lots of people on black city council, county commission, more recently, Democrats in control. What would you say the black community in Cincinnati has to show for that? Because I heard you say it's not for a lack of effort, but effort is one thing and results are another. So, you know, I hear the effort, but I'm asking what's a fair list to say for black folks in Cincinnati who are unhappy and to feel like this is a black city? What do we have to show for all of that?
We have things like the Black Walk of Fame downtown. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
Walk of Fame. We have the what's the historical building right next to it?
Underground Railroad Museum.
Yeah, the Underground Railroad. I'm sorry, it's just slipping me right now.
And TNT,
I got your back. I got your back.
Provide the list. That's not your responsibility to provide.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying,
because I want it to be like a list of 50 things. I mean, I just put that out there as food for thought.
These are initiatives that people have done to like promote Black excellence. There has been a lot more Black owned businesses that have launched. I know, including myself, and there's a lot of organizations that support that. You know, in our youth, I know it's a lot of money put into, you know, youth programs and whatnot. And so it's not, like I say, could there be more? You know, say we have to think of in the grand scheme, like this economy right now, it's really, really hard. And that is kind of outside the purview of what the city can do, cost and everything going up. But at the same time, it's just like under this leadership, I just know it was a time where we were fighting for contracts. We were fighting for better schools. All the schools, Cincinnati public schools around here, pretty much all have been rebuilt. None of them look the same like when we were growing up. You know what I'm saying? And it's just been a constant of like vitalization. Downtown do not look the same. And there's a lot of spaces, Warner Hills. I know it's just like a lot of development and a lot of efforts in trying to, answer the call, with these food deserts. They try to put stores here. If they're able to succeed or whatnot, that's another thing. But the effort of just like, yes, we hear you. There's a food desert here. Let's put a store here. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's put a pharmacy here. And people are trying it. And I just think that in this day and time, just knowing someone that's been on the front line of like fighting for things for our community and seeing where we've been and where we are now, like, is there room for improvement? Of course, but it's just like, I see the effort because I know when we have those candidates forums, we are asking those questions. We are putting their feet to the fire. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't follow their vote. You know what I'm saying? It's only around election time, but you got to come to City Hall. You got to, be invested more in your city, more than just election time. If you want more things to happen, if you're looking to be supported in different ways. And so everybody is looking for the city to come to them. When you got to come to the office, that's your City Hall. You got to come there and you got to make some noise and you got to ask for what you need and you got to put whatever issues in front of them so they can see what ways they can make things happen and manifest. But a lot of people rather get on the radio or whatever and complain or whatever they do. You know what I'm saying? And just nothing's going to work out from that perspective. Doers do and complainers just complain.
Can I jump in and say a few things? Black Tech Week, music festival, jazz festival, the Q's come into town, yes. Black family reunion. Mm-hmm. This Cincinnati, Ohio, when I look across this river, it's a black city, man. So grow on that, speak on that, embrace that, be proud of it. Why is that? Have to have care about calling it a black city and that and in such a negative connotation. It should be embraced. It should be, this is a black city where you can come. And if you're black and you're looking for a place to come and be around more people who look like you, who are involved, Cincinnati is the place for you to come. We've got this. Not, it's a black city. You don't go down there because you might get beat up. There's a way to drive the connotation. And I mean, I'm not a huge AFTAB fan, but talk black to me, baby. That's what it is.
Don't be afraid to do it.
AFTAB talking black to me don't mean a damn thing. You know what AFTAB could do and what city council could do that would be meaningful? The median black income in Cincinnati for black households is $31,000. White households is $71,000. See, here's the and I get in trouble for saying this kind of stuff because it ain't popular. It sounds like I'm crapping on stuff. But when we hold up, we got the Underground Railroad Freedom Center, we got the Black Walk of Fame, we got the Black Family Reunion. All of those are things that are nice and add to the cultural significance of the city. But they do nothing to address the economic, the educational, the gap, the affordable housing gaps that black folks in this city are suffering from. And so when I say what return are we getting for these elected officials who are in these places, because I see a lot of stuff getting easily done for the white power establishment. Why is it so hard when you got black elected officials and all of these people who are supposed to be with us to get things done for black folks in a black city? That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Stuff gets done very easily for other people who want to get stuff done. Bengals get a new stadium contract. Reds get a new stadium contract. 3CDC wants to do something. It happened. No problem. But when black people come asking for scraps, oh, it's the effort. We putting in the work, but no outcome or return that is impacting us in any way. We got to celebrate getting streets named after black. This is what I say about what government does to pacify black folks. It's stuff that masquerades. It's nothing that masquerades as something. And people always get mad at me when I say that, because it sounds like I'm crapping on the street naming, or they're gonna do a special holiday, or we're gonna do this proclamation, because none of that improves the wealth gap, the income gap in this city, the education gap, and we take it like it's something we supposed to be grateful for. And so when I say, what are we getting back in return? So what? We reelected the all Democratic city council that we got. What are they doing? What is the return on that? Who cares if we got 4 or 5 black people on council if they ain't affecting nothing?
All fair questions.
We just happy to have it, just to say we got black people on there. Oh, that's progress. We ain't got no more progress.
Like black leadership.
Yeah, why are you crapping on black leadership, Kevin?
I'm not crapping on black leadership.
Why you crapping on Alicia Reese?
I'm just simply asking the question and saying we got to quit being so easily satisfied. We got to just quit being so easily satisfied with the things they think.
Definitely, no one is ever satisfied.
No, I'm not talking about like you. I get that there are people who are out there that are working. I'm not, and that's why I say I'm not trying to crap on the work that anybody is doing. I'm just saying, to me, it's an accountability thing. Yeah. To me, it's an accountability thing. Like I can't be happy that we elect the same people that haven't changed anything. If you think that's a win, I guess.
No, I'm just saying the critique of certain ones. If especially in particular at the mayor, if you didn't like, you had your chance to remove him. He won overwhelmingly. So I mean, I'm just like, a lot of this be outside noise, and what people got to be very careful of is not being controlled by the narrative by the ops. The ops put a lot of stuff out there, and what we tend to do, because we not as informed, or we don't really like see things and able to like tangibly like, oh, how this has helped me personally. It's real easy to jump on the bandwagon and be like, oh, well, they not doing stuff. But then when you get in front of these candidates forums and you pose these questions in front of them, they tell you like, oh yeah, we did invested X amount of dollars in affordable housing. We have, done this for the homeless. We have done this in X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, but you don't know. And why you don't know is either you're not in tune like that. You can always visit the City of Cincinnati website, see all the things that they're doing for the city. You know what I'm saying? It's all listed. But it's like, that would be too much like right. And not people don't care to be informed and invested. They rather get on the bandwagon and say what is not happening and what they don't feel. Just like how we kept saying, oh, well, it feels like it's crime and it's violence and it's things happening every day when actually the statistics was showing that crime has went down. Yeah, crime is going to happen. But, if you let the narrative go out there like that, like, oh, it's terrible downtown when it really is not. And like, some people had to push like, no, it's actually safe. It's safe to go down. We had a few bad incidents here and there, but that's not the overall makeup. But let other people tell it, and you will believe that is. So it's really, really important for people not to be sheeple and go with a narrative that is really being parroted by people of total opposition.
Yeah, I think that's cool to say that, TNT, and I don't doubt that there's some of that at play, but people look at their lives, right? And I think it's insulting to say to somebody who looks at their life and says, my life ain't getting no better, and not are any of the lives around the people that I know around me are not getting any better. And I voted for X number of people. So it's just like Joe Biden. When Joe Biden was running, he kept trying to tell people, hey, the economy is great. The economy is great. People's like, hey, man, I still can't afford groceries. So it's like, it don't matter what the politician want to try to sell you. You can't argue against what people's personal.
You don't have to sell facts. Facts are facts, though. And what we're realizing now, like going back to what you're talking about, Biden, in comparison to then and now, I bet people would be more comfortable with that economy than what we're dealing with right now. Like it has gotten aggressively.
But Trump pushing that same narrative, though. Trump pushing that same BS narrative that is good, that is all good.
Biden was taking on the pandemic,
Immigrants,
bringing us back from a global pandemic. The United States was one of the best countries coming out of this global pandemic as far as economically, and so we was climbing out of a problem. So of course we wasn't where we wanted to be, but we was climbing out of it from something that has never like happened, and that it didn't just impact the United States; it impacted the whole world. And so coming from that, and then you have this fool, you re-enter him when the last administration he blew up the deficit, and people act like they don't remember that, and he just spend it left and right. Now he just spending taxpayer dollars on his planes and just different things, wars, and just wasting our money like it don't even matter. Like, and inflation is worse. Tariffs are worse. All of these are like self-inflicted by a fool. We're being led by a fool, and you can't tell me people are not looking at gas prices and food and this now and don't mourn for what it was a few years ago. Please, like I would take that on a steady climb of getting out than where we are now, where we're going deeper and deeper into the hole. That's where we're at right now.
During the pandemic, everybody was on assistance and was getting these big old checks. Everybody was getting.
You couldn't go to work, so that was just self-sustaining. That was still under your president Trump. He did that.
You're talking about a deficit. That's how we got in the deficit. It's not what Trump is doing right now. It's that what all we happened from the pandemic from 2020 to now. It's not Trump. I'm not a huge Trump fan at the moment, but that's not Trump. That was on Biden. That was all on Biden. How he handled
Trump
that.
didn't cause the pandemic.
You said something about Biden. You're Biden on Biden's watch. What he did, he opened up the floodgates and let all the immigrants in. So if that's what he was doing on his watch, he was letting his immigrants.
We'll be here for another hour, Nathan. Like that's it for another show. He's trying to change the subject. The truth is the truth.
What's the truth? We talking about Trump.
I'll just leave it at this because I kind of feel like I'm just all for like holding people accountable for the results that they produce. Absolutely. And it's not Republican or Democrat. For me, it's about who's getting the job done, and anybody can catch the smoke if you ain't doing what people elected you to put you in there to do. And I think like too many times people are able to find cover through the partisanship. That's Democrat and Republican, right? They rely on the tribalism. They rely on the politics to find cover because it's like, well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but at least I ain't that guy. You don't want that guy to come in because he's going to be worse. Both sides do that. And it becomes cover for neither side making good policy decisions or doing things that's benefiting the constituencies that put them in there. And I'm speaking specifically to Black people in Cincinnati. Like the argument for me never works that we're not like someplace else. I don't live someplace else. I live here. If I wanted to live someplace else, I'd move to someplace else, but I live here. So I'm arguing about what conditions are like here, not comparing them to what they're like in some other place that I ought to be grateful that I'm not there. I don't live there for a reason. I live in Cincinnati for a reason. So let's deal with like that. That moves the goalpost and again becomes another excuse for accepting less results than what we deserve. And I think we just got to get off that and say,
no, we leave the nation in a lot of things that we've done right here.
Whoever, you can all get the smoke. Seth Walsh, all of y'all can get the smoke. Nobody is absolved from catching a stray if you ain't doing what you supposed to be doing. And especially if you share the same skin color that I share, I'm definitely looking at you to do something. Now, I'll give Scotty and Jan Michelle a lot of credit. They have been trying to do things for, these 15 underserved neighborhoods and some of the policies, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do for that. That's a very good step, looking at those 15 neighborhoods and seeing what results they can get there. But the city also need to get them a better PR engine, because I'm sick of hearing this. Oh, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Well, get it out from behind the scenes. Get it from behind the scenes out front so that people know what they're doing, so that the radio champions and the keyboard warriors might have there might be some facts out there I shouldn't have to go. The city needs to be out in front, holding press conferences, getting stuff out there. This is what we're doing. If I'm elected official on city council, I'm holding a press conference. I'm putting op-eds because I want to show you the work. I want to show this is why you elected me, and this is why you should re-elect me again. But and it's funny. Sometimes when you get these politicians, hey, what'd you do in that term? And they ain't got nothing for you. I'm just saying, they ain't got nothing that they can point to, no policy. Well, I passed this resolution saying that we should be fighting the war in Gaza. Man, get out of here with that. That's the best you got. That's the best you got to come at me with on re-election, is you voted for something that ain't even got nothing to do with Cincinnati. I'm just saying.
What I think we definitely need, and I've been preaching for this a long time, I was with the NAACP or whatnot, is report cards. Like, we need to have a showing people voting records, what they voted on. Because when people see, it's real easy, as Kevin was saying, but in a slightly different way, for people to pin Democrats and Republicans and it's all the same, one and the same. But the voting records should tell it all. And above beyond what we do as far as showing flyers with the names and who's affiliated with this or whatnot, I think it would be more informative if people saw people's voting records, see where they stand on certain things, and not just citywide but statewide. These state legislative candidates that's running, how do they vote on certain matters that impact our lives really? That matters. And until an organization has the fortitude to start doing something like that and getting that information out to the people can really make decisions and really choose and not just fall into those partisan tents of just but really know who is really working in your best interest. And then I think it would be very clear. It's clear to some of us, but for some people that just need it in writing or just need to see, officially, that would be helpful.
All right. That's all I got, folks. We'll be back on Friday, TNT. I'm glad you're back with us. It's great to see you.
I love seeing I feel like the quality of the debate today was elevated purely because of TNT's presence today. A worthy debate adversary on the show.
I would like to do a show with all females like Lakita, TNT, and I can't think of her name or it escapes me. 3 women and then 3 men, and we talk about this because we need to go back. We need to address that. I think this is a big topic in the Black community, especially, that we need to address this fatherlessness thing and the roles that fathers play. And we take. I can take it if someone tells me, stop. Okay, we're going to speak on a level to where I'm going to say some things that you might not like. So take down your wall and accept it. I'm willing to do that if someone's willing to do that on the same thing. If you can bring your anecdotal experiences to me and I can say, and you say, yeah, you really make good points. I think that would be a good show for us to do that around the board, instead of if Kevin brings up a good point, I'm like, nah, Kevin, that point's crap. We do it good for the show, but something as important as, men and men's roles for our youth, I think that's something that we should really take the time to deep dive on if we can.
All right. Well, folks, we'll be back with you on Friday, 1:15 for the real show, about 1 p.m. for the pre-show. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Phil. Thanks to everybody. Crew's it's already being fleshed out. And we'll let you know probably Friday morning who's going to be with us. Have a great week, and we'll talk real soon. Thanks for your time, everybody.